Chapter 155. In this situation, Yun Yao and Ji Tianxing didn't even need to communicate. They knew what to do. The only thing they could do was try their best to break through the encirclement. After all, the high priest of the demon race had infiltrated the Sky Pillar sect several times in the past 100 years. Even the many elders in the sect couldn't do anything to him. Although Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen were the elites in the sect, they were only juniors. How could they defeat the high priest of the demon race? At the same time, the high priest and the blood moon Infanta moved at the same time. They approached the three of them with a murderous aura. Shush. The soft sound of their footsteps on the grass was like the tolling of the bell of death. It made one's heart tighten. Finally, Yun Yao pulled out her sword and rushed towards the high priestess with a cold expression. She waved her sword and slashed out 49 sword lights. Swish, 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 swish. Every sword gleam was 2 meters long. 49 sword gleams were released at the same time and enveloped the high priest instantly. This was Yun Yao's ultimate sword technique. She clearly used all her strength and didn't hold back at all. The high priest didn't expect her to take the initiative to attack. A mocking sneer appeared in his eyes. He instantly removed the pitch-black whip from his waist. It was suffused with the aura of death. He waved the whip and released a black shadow to block the sword gleams. Bam! 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 Amidst a series of muffled sounds, Yun Yao's sword lights collapsed one after another, turning into bits and pieces that dissipated. The high priestess easily blocked her attack and remained unscathed. Not only that, the high priest grinned and sneered silently. He waved the black snake-like whip again and swept it at Yun Yao. Swish, swish. The black snake-like whip shot out hundreds of black cold stars and enveloped Yun Yao from head to toe. Bai Wuchen's expression changed drastically. His eyes were filled with worry. He drew his sword and rushed forward without hesitation to help Yun Yao block the attack. The two of them waved their swords at the same time. Cold sword gleams filled the sky and blocked the hundreds of black cold stars. Ding ding dang dang dang. A burst of crisp sounds burst out, and both of them were shaken to the point that they retreated 10 steps back. Their complexions were pale, and beads of sweat appeared on their foreheads. Hee. Since you're here, why don't you stay? The high priest sneered and waved his black snake whip again, attacking Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen. The two of them could only fight back with all their might. They unleashed their ultimate sword techniques and fought against the high priest. The three of them were all martial Dao experts. Their battle was exceptionally intense. The speed at which they moved and dodged was so fast that no one could see them clearly. Ji Tianxing could only see that a radius of 10 meters had been enveloped by the sword light, like a ball of cold light radiating in all directions. The ball of light was still moving, rushing into the depths of the forest. Wherever it passed, the grass and trees were crushed into pieces, splashing in all directions. Even a Tongxian realm expert wasn't qualified to interfere in a battle of this level. At this moment, the blood moon Infanta turned into a black fog, crossed a distance of 100 steps, and appeared in front of Ji Tianxing. She stared at Ji Tianxing coldly. She raised her palms in her sleeves and used 2 huge bloody hands to grab Ji Tianxing's head. Damn demon tribe! Ji Tianxing cursed in his heart. His expression became cold, and his eyes became serious. It's this vicious demoness again. It's this trick again. When he was locked in the narrow stone room in the dark wind cave, he had nowhere to hide. He was almost killed by the blood moon Infanta. Today, he fought with the blood moon Infanta again, but this time, they were in the forest at the foot of the mountain. The terrain here was more spacious. Moreover, his strength had improved, and he had the black dragon sword in his hand. This time, Ji Tianxing finally had the ability to save his life. Damn demoness, take my sword! Ji Tianxing shouted angrily as he drew out his sword and slashed at the blood moon Infanta. Swish! The black dragon sword turned into a 3-meter-long snow-white sword radiance, which carried an overbearing and violent power, and slashed at the Blood Moon Infanta fiercely. The Blood Moon Infanta's expression changed immediately. She didn't dare to use her bloody hands to take the sword head-on, and she quickly turned into a black fog and disappeared. "Heh heh, worm of the human tribe, you are lucky that I didn't kill you last time. Today, you will definitely die." When she finished her words, she appeared behind Ji Tianqing out of thin air, and she easily dodged the Black Dragon Sword's attack. Boom! The Black Dragon Sword slashed at the forest, and a 5-meter-long ditch appeared on the ground. Countless pieces of soil and grass splashed out, and the ground was shaking. However, the Blood Moon Infanta had attacked him from behind, and she waved her bloody hands fiercely toward his back and head. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing sensed the imminent danger of death, and his whole body became tense. He didn't have time to turn around, and he used the shadowless step to escape with all his might. However, he was one step too slow, and his back was hit by the bloody hands with a bang. Puff! He immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body was sent flying, and he crashed into the forest 10 meters away. Fortunately, he dodged in time, and he only suffered 60% of the power of the bloody hands. The ice hornless armor he was wearing had also blocked most of the power for him, which had saved his life. Only his internal organs had been injured. Swish! When he just got up from the ground, the Blood Moon Infanta rushed toward him again, and she raised her bloody hands to slap him fiercely. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing could only use his trump card. Wind and Thunder Strike. He activated 2 half-meter-long sword chi, and used all his strength to slash at the Blood Moon Infanta. The 2 sword chi lit up with a dazzling golden light, and they rolled up a violent hurricane, and turned into a half-meter-long lightning bolt, which struck down with a loud bang. Boom! The violent lightning bolt shattered the Blood Moon Infanta's bloody hands on the spot. She was forced back 3 steps, and her eyes were filled with astonishment. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianqing didn't want to continue the fight, and he used the shadowless step to escape without hesitation. Unfortunately, the gap between his strength and the Blood Moon Infanta's was too big, and there was at least a gap of 1 realm between them. The Blood Moon Infanta came to herself, and her body flashed, and she caught up with him. Before he could react, the Blood Moon Infanta slapped his back, and he was sent flying. Boom! Ji Tianqing spat out a mouthful of blood again, and he fell into the forest 10 meters away. This time, his injuries were worse, and his internal organs were even more injured. Blood kept dripping from the corners of his mouth, and his internal organs were in severe pain, as if they were cut by knives. He couldn't use any genuine vitality. However, he was still conscious, and he could clearly feel the piercing pain, and his whole body was drenched in cold sweat. The Blood Moon Infanta walked over, and looked at him with disdain. She extended 2 fingers, and quickly tapped his chest and abdomen 4 times. Immediately, Ji Tianqing's acupoints were sealed, and his body was lying stiffly on the grass, and he couldn't move anymore. Besides being able to speak, he couldn't do anything else, and he had completely lost control of his body. Obviously, his acupoints were sealed by the Blood Moon Infanta. The Blood Moon Infanta didn't kill him, and she knocked him out with 1 palm. She then carried him on her shoulder and walked into the cave. Chapter 156. Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen fought the high priest with all their might for hundreds of moves. 15 minutes later, the 3 of them went from the entrance of the demon cave to the depths of the forest. The battlefield had shifted nearly 1,000 meters away. Wherever the 3 of them went, they left behind a 1,000-meter-long ditch. The grass and trees nearby were all twisted into pieces. Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen were the elite geniuses of the Sky Pillar sect and had extraordinary strength. However, the high priest of the demon clan was a powerhouse that gave the elders a headache. How could the 2 of them be a match for him? After hundreds of moves, Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen had suffered serious injuries. Their bodies were covered with crisscrossing wounds. Blood gushed out and dyed their white robes red. It was a ghastly sight. Not only that, the two of them had used up a lot of their true essence. Their faces were very pale, and their combat power had weakened rapidly. They only had 50% of their strength left. However, the high priest was unscathed. His attacks were still violent and strange. It seemed that he had an endless supply of true essence. He stepped on the ground barefoot and waved the black snake whip in his hands. He shot out black sword chi that covered the sky and attacked Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen respectively. The two of them were forced to retreat. They could only block with their swords. After a series of clanking sounds, Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen were sent flying and fell into the forest. The high priest ignored Bai Wuchen and chased after Yun Yao with a sneer on his face. Chick, you must be Yun Yao, the chief disciple of the Sky Pillar sect, right? The #1 genius of the Tiantian region and the future successor of the sect master. If I capture you, the Sky Pillar sect will exchange some important treasures with me, right? As he spoke, he waved the black snake whip again and shot out hundreds of black cold stars toward Yun Yao. Although Yun Yao's injuries were very serious, she was surrounded by hundreds of cold stars and had nowhere to run. However, she still refused to give up. She shouted angrily with a cold face, "You damn demon! Even if I die here, I will never let the sect be threatened by you." With an angry roar, she used the last of her strength to slash out 49 sword rays. Ding ding dang dang dang. The sword aura collided with the many black cold stars, producing a crisp sound of collision. A violent and raging force burst forth, creating a hurricane in the forest. However, she was already an arrow at the end of its flight and her attack power was limited. She could not block the High Priestess' attack at all. The 49 sword auras were all destroyed, but more than half of the black cold stars were still flying towards her. She was about to be turned into a sieve by the dense rain of black cold stars. She would either be seriously injured and unconscious or be killed on the spot. At this critical moment, a dazzling golden light suddenly flashed from the side, followed by a voice full of worry. "Eldest senior sister, be careful." Without a doubt, the person who rushed over to save her was Bai Wuchen. Although Bai Wuchen was severely injured, he still used the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda. Under his control, the Xianji Pagoda grew to the height of a person. It shone with a dazzling golden light that enveloped him. Swoosh! With the protection of the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda, he rushed to Yun Yao in an instant and helped Yun Yao block dozens of black cold stars. Bam 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 bam! Dozens of black cold stars hit the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda, causing the golden light shield to tremble and ripple. However, the golden light shield was not damaged. It actually blocked the High Priestess attack. "Eldest senior sister, let's go." In the next moment, Bai Wuchen rushed to Yun Yao's side. The Arcanum Treasure Pagoda's golden light shield also enveloped her. Before the High Priestess could react, Bai Wuchen used a secret technique to control the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda and flew out of the forest. The golden light shield protected him and Yun Yao as they flew high into the sky. Like a shooting star, they streaked across the sky and flew into the distance. The Arcanum Treasure Pagoda's speed was extremely fast. In just a few breaths, it disappeared into the horizon. The High Priestess did not chase after them. After all, he had not reached ethereal cultivation. He could not form wings with his ethereal force to fly in the sky. He stood in the forest and looked up at the sky. When he saw the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda carrying Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen away, his eyes flashed with hatred. "Damn it! I can't believe I let them escape. The next time I see them, I'll definitely kill you," the High Priestess muttered in a cold voice. Then, she put away the black snake whip and walked toward the entrance of the demon cave. With the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda protecting Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen, they flew across the dark sky and landed on a mountain peak. In the forest on the mountain peak, a gigantic spirit crane and a ferocious silver moon wolf were crouching. Swoosh! In a flash of golden light, the two of them landed on the grassland on the mountain peak. Bai Wuchen's face was pale. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Although the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda was a powerful treasure, it consumed a lot of his spiritual consciousness and ethereal force to control it. He quickly put away the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda and leaned against a tree to catch his breath. He took out a pill and put it into his mouth to recover his strength. Yunyao also didn't care about treating the injuries on her body. After taking a healing pill, she looked around worriedly. Where's junior brother Tianxing? Why didn't he escape? Bai Wuchen was startled. He looked around, but he didn't see Ji Tianxing anywhere. He frowned and tried to recall. Then, he said in a low voice, I remember now. When we were fighting with the High Priestess, Ji Tianxing seemed to be fighting with the demonic woman. With his strength, there's no way he can defeat the demonic woman. Now, he must have been killed by the demonic woman. Even if he's not dead, he must have been captured. Upon hearing this, Yunyao frowned. Her eyes were filled with worry and anxiety. No. We came here to carry out the mission together. We have to go back together. We can't leave him behind. We have to go back and save him. As she spoke, Yunyao picked up her sword and was about to go down the mountain to save Ji Tianxing. Bai Wuchen pulled her back and said seriously, Eldest senior sister, don't be rash. You have personally experienced how powerful the high priest of the demon race is. We used the power of the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda to escape from her clutches. If you go back to save Ji Tianxing now, won't you be walking right into a trap? Seeing that Yunyao was silent, he said in a low voice, Eldest senior sister, you know how important this mission is to our sect. We have to put the mission first. Ji Tianxing is most likely dead now. What's the point of you going back? Let's get out of here quickly and report back to the sect. As he said this, he thought to himself, Eldest senior sister and I are both elite geniuses in the sect. No matter who dies, it'll be a big loss to the sect. Ji Tianxing is just an outer disciple. If he dies, so be it. He's not worth our lives to save. However, Yunyao took out the crystal ball containing Ji Ling's soul from her jade ring and handed it to Bai Wuchen. Junior brother Bai, take Ji Ling's soul and report back to the sect leader immediately. I'll go save junior brother Tianxing alone. Seeing that Bai Wuchen was frowning and wanted to persuade her again, she continued, Junior brother Bai, you don't have to persuade me anymore. I've made up my mind. Give me the Arcanum Treasure Pagoda. I'll go save him. Then, without waiting for Bai Wuchen's agreement, she snatched the pagoda from him and rushed to the entrance of the Devil's Cave. Bai Wuchen watched her figure disappear into the forest. His face was very ugly, and his eyes flashed with hatred. Damn Ji Tianxing! What did you do to deserve eldest senior sister sacrificing herself to save you? After stopping for a while, he put away the crystal ball and rode back to the Sky Pillar sect on his Silvermoon Wolf. Chapter 157. After an unknown amount of time, Ji Tianxing slowly woke up. He slowly opened his eyes and saw that he was lying on the cold floor. It was a dimly lit secret room filled with the stench of blood and corruption. Using the dim light from the stone lamp in the corner, he looked around and saw his surroundings clearly. He was alone in the secret room and had set up a powerful array. The sharp pain from his internal organs made his breathing painful. There were still traces of blood in his nose and mouth, and there was a strong smell of blood. He wanted to heal himself, but several of his meridians were sealed, and he could not use his vital core. Although he could move freely, his vital core was sealed, and he could not break the array in the secret room. It was impossible for him to escape. He sat on the cold floor and frowned. The despicable demoness did not kill me but locked me in this secret room? What is she trying to do? After thinking for a while, he still could not figure out the demoness' intention. He could not guess what would happen next and what his fate would be. Ji Tianxing calmed down and silently observed the secret room. He also listened to the sounds outside. However, there was nothing in the secret chamber. Nothing could be seen, and the outside of the secret chamber was also silent. In the darkness and silence, Ji Tianqing was unusually calm as he pondered silently. I don't know what time it is. Have Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen escaped? They are both the elite geniuses of our sect. They should be fine, right? No, I can't just sit here and wait for death. I have to find a way to escape. To escape from the secret room, he had to break the seal on his meridians and recover his vital core and strength. Then, he had to break the array in the secret room. However, he was stumped at the first stage. The demoness used a secret technique to seal his meridians so that he could not use his vital core. He thought hard for a long time and tried many ways to break the seal, but he could not do it. The demoness had sealed his meridians with a very strong power. Even a mystic comprehending realm expert could not break it. Ji Tianqing could only place his hopes on the sword embryo and pray that it could create a miracle. He tried to activate the sword chi, and after a few tries, he finally managed to activate 2 toothpick-like sword chi. Although his acupoints were sealed and his true essence could not flow through his meridians and acupoints, he was still able to control his true essence. However, the 2 streaks of sword chi were able to move slowly towards the sealed acupoint. Next, Ji Tianqing began to manipulate the 2 sword chis, carefully attacking the sealed acupoint. Although this process was very painful, it was as if he was holding a knife and continuously cutting his own flesh. However, his strength was too low and he could not directly unseal his acupoint. This was the only way. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. Ji Tianqing endured a great deal of pain and finally unlocked the first acupoint. Great! My sword chi can indeed unseal acupoints. His spirits were lifted, and he continued to manipulate the sword chi to attack the second sealed aperture. Another hour passed, and the second acupoint was unlocked. Ji Tianqing's mind was greatly exhausted, and the great pain made him break out in a cold sweat. However, he did not stop and started to unseal the third and fourth acupoints. Soon 4 hours had passed. The 4 acupoints that were sealed by the demoness had finally been unlocked. When all the acupoints were unlocked, the true core energy in Ji Tianqing's body started to flow again, just like a blocked pipe being unblocked. He stood up and moved his sore and numb body to check his injuries. He took out an elixir from his 100 treasures brocade pouch and consumed it. He circulated his chi to refine the elixir and silently treated his injuries. Then, he carefully observed the array in the secret room, trying to break the array. However, at this moment, he suddenly caught a glimpse of a wisp of gray fog floating in the corner of the secret room. The secret room was dimly lit, so he could not see clearly. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to it and continued to observe the array. However, a weak old man's voice suddenly rang out, clearly imprinted in his mind. "Boy, are you a descendant of the Ji family?" Ji Tianqing was stunned. He turned his head to look at the gray fog in the corner. He walked closer to take a look and found that the gray fog was the same as the souls sealed in the crystal ball. Swoosh! The gray fog rolled a few times and immediately turned into a palm-sized old man in a blue robe, floating in front of him. Ji Tianqing could not help but frown. He muttered doubtfully, "Didn't Senior Sister save the sealed souls? Why is there another one here?" He suddenly remembered that when Bai Wuchen was saving the soul in the last crystal ball, the demon guards rushed into the secret room. Then, they fought with the devil race guards and hurriedly fought their way out of the secret chamber. Bai Wuchen seemed to have only broken half of the array in the last crystal ball. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing suddenly understood everything. He looked at the old man in the blue robe in front of him and whispered, "Senior, are you talking to me?" The old man in the blue robe nodded and said solemnly, "This old man escaped from the crystal ball and did not reincarnate. I came to find you because I have something to ask you. Boy, are you a descendant of the Ji family of the royal Azure dynasty?" Ji Tianxing did not know what he wanted to do, but he guessed that he did not mean any harm. He answered honestly, yes. The old man in the blue robe showed a touch of joy and continued to ask, "Is it the Ji family of the imperial city's 4 aristocratic families? The family that specializes in forging weapons?" "Of course." Ji Tianxing nodded and asked, "Senior, do you know the Ji family? Or do you have any relationship with the Ji family?" The old man in the blue robe smiled and nodded. This old man and the Ji family have more than just a relationship. To be precise, this old man was once a member of the Ji family. The Ji family? Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and showed a surprised expression. "May I ask who you are?" "This old man is the trusted follower of the first generation of the Ji family. I was also the head steward of the Ji family. Originally, this old man did not have the surname Ji, but the family head granted me the surname Ji. Therefore, this old man's surname is Ji Wenxiang." Ji Tianxing was even more surprised when he heard Ji Wenxiang's words. He showed a face full of disbelief. "The first generation of the Ji family? Isn't that our Ji family's ancestor? Senior, you are the head steward of our ancestor? But our ancestor has been dead for more than 100 years. Ji Wenxiang showed a playful smile and shook his head. "The person who has been dead for more than 100 years is this old man. This old man's soul has been imprisoned here for more than 120 years. As for the family head, he was an unfathomable expert. How could he die so easily?" The younger generations of the Ji family all thought that the family head was dead. In fact, the family head was only missing. "I do not believe that the family head is dead." Ji Tianxing did not know much about the things that happened 100 years ago. Other than knowing that the Ji family's ancestor was called Ji Rulong, he knew nothing else. Now, after hearing Ji Wenxiang's words, he was shocked and even more confused. "Senior, why did my family's ancestor go missing? Why was your soul imprisoned by the devil race for more than 100 years? The 6th update has been delivered. Thank you, brothers, for your tips and recommendation tickets." Xiao He bowed to thank everyone. Chapter 158. Although Ji Wenxiang's soul had been imprisoned for more than 100 years and was already very weak, the memories of the past were still fresh in his mind. He answered without hesitation, "The experts of the demon race have long wanted to deal with the family head. They wanted to force the family head to tell them the whereabouts of the heavenly star pearl. In that great battle, the family head and I were besieged by many experts of the demon race. I died in battle while protecting the family head. After I died, the experts of the demon race extracted my soul and imprisoned me in an evil artifact. Every day, they would use secret techniques to beat me and torture me for information about the heavenly star pearl." Ji Tianxing's expression changed slightly, and a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. "The heavenly star pearl? Senior, why are the demon race looking for the heavenly star pearl?" The information about the heavenly star pearl was told to him by the Sword Soul, the burial of heaven. He had always thought that this was his biggest secret and that no one else would know about it. However, he did not expect that the demon race had been investigating the whereabouts of the heavenly star pearl for more than 100 years. It was obvious that the demon race also knew about the heavenly star pearl. Ji Wenxiang shook his head and said angrily, "I also don't know why the demon race is looking for the heavenly star pearl. However, in the past 100 years, I have heard from the experts of the demon race that the heavenly star pearl seems to be a treasure that appeared in the ancient star realm 1,000 years ago. It is an earth-shattering treasure." Ji Tianxing frowned. After thinking for a while, he asked, "Senior, the demon race ambushed our family head. Does our family head really know the whereabouts of the heavenly star pearl?" Ji Wenxiang shook his head and said doubtfully, "I am not sure about this. I have never heard the family head mention anything about the heavenly star pearl." Ji Tianxing nodded slightly. After thinking for a while, he murmured softly, so the demon race has such a deep blood feud with our G family. In the future, when I am strong enough, I will definitely take revenge. However, the family head has not appeared for more than 100 years. I wonder if the family head is still alive? When the experts of the demon race ambushed you, I wonder if the family head successfully escaped. Ji Wenxiang frowned and thought for a moment, then said with certainty, "From what I see, the patriarch should have successfully escaped. If he's killed by the demons, his soul will definitely be extracted and imprisoned here. The demons will definitely interrogate him about the whereabouts of the heavenly star bead." Ji Tianxing nodded in agreement. Since the ancestor's soul wasn't imprisoned, it means that the ancestor successfully escaped. It's very likely that my ancestor is still alive, isn't it, Senior? Ji Wenxiang quickly nodded. Of course. Back then, the patriarch's strength had reached the peak of the Yuan Dan stage, and he had a lifespan of 200 to 300 years. As long as nothing unexpected happened to him, he should still be alive. A hint of joy appeared in Ji Tianxing's eyes. He thought about the little black dragon and the forbidden grounds of the Ji clan, so he asked Ji Wenxiang. Senior, our Ji family has a freezing ice dragon. It's most likely that the forefather caught it from the endless eastern sea. Do you know about this matter? Frost flood dragon? Ji Wenxiang was startled. After a moment of recollection, he nodded and said, "Yes, there is such a thing. However, the patriarch didn't go to the distant eastern sea. The patriarch took that freezing ice dragon with him when he left the divine Hui sect." Divine Hui sect? Ji Tianxing frowned and said doubtfully, "Could it be a big sect in the ancient star realm?" Ji Wenxiang shook his head and said, "The divine Hui sect is not a sect in the ancient star realm, but in the Yong'an region. The Yong'an region and the Tianqian region are neighbors. The divine Hui sect was once the #1 sect in the Yong'an region. The patriarch was the youngest elder in the divine Hui sect. He was extremely powerful and skilled in the art of forging. He was quite famous in the entire Yong'an region. After the great change in the divine Hui sect, the patriarch took the freezing ice dragon and left the sect. He came to the Qingyun country in the Tianqian region and founded the Ji family." "I see. Yong'an region. Shen Hui sect." Ji Tianxing murmured to himself as he committed these two names to memory. He had promised the little black dragon that he would help it find the dragon crystal and recover all its power. All this time, he had no clue where to start, so he could only bury this matter in the bottom of his heart. Since Ji Wenxiang was a trusted aide of the Ji family's patriarch and knew a lot of secrets, Ji Tianxing took the opportunity to ask. "Senior, the freezing ice dragon's dragon crystal seemed to have been taken away by our patriarch. Do you know where it is?" Ji Wenxiang frowned and thought for a while, then shook his head and said, "I don't know the details. If you want to investigate, you can go to the divine Hui sect in the Yong'an region. Maybe you can find some clues there. However, with your current strength, you can't enter the divine Hui sect without a proper reason." Ji Tianxing made a mental note and saluted him. "Thank you, Senior, for telling me so many secrets from 100 years ago and solving my confusion." Ji Wenxiang smiled and showed a gratified expression. "Although I've been dead for more than 100 years, knowing that the patriarch might still be alive, I can reincarnate with peace of mind. I see you again today. With such a wise and calm descendant like you, the Ji family will definitely prosper." This old man is comforted. After the soul left the crystal ball, it would quickly dissipate into the world. Ji Wenxiang's soul had been imprisoned and tortured for more than 100 years, so it was very weak. Just now, he had chatted with Ji Tianxing for so long, so his soul had become extremely thin, almost transparent, and would soon dissipate. Before dissipating, Ji Wenxiang did not forget to warn him, "Young master, the demon race is cunning and cruel. You must not provoke them. Even if there is a blood feud, you must wait until you are strong enough to take revenge. Also, if the patriarch is still alive and you find him one day, please pass on a message for me. I, Ji Wenxiang, have no regrets towards the Ji family. I was born a member of the Ji family, and I will die as a ghost of the Ji family. Ji Wenxiang's voice became weaker and weaker until it could no longer be heard. After a few breaths, his soul completely dissipated, and he was reincarnated. Ji Tianxing watched Ji Wenxiang's soul dissipate and stood there for a long time with a solemn expression. He was filled with respect for this old servant of the Ji family. At the same time, he could not help but think, what kind of person is my patriarch? How could he make Ji Wenxiang follow him for life and be so loyal? The demon race has been searching for the heavenly star bead, and my patriarch is actually related to it. Things are getting more and more complicated. It seems that I must be more careful in searching for the heavenly star bead. The heavenly star bead, the little black dragon, the Yong An region, the Shunhui sect. One day, I will investigate everything, find the patriarch and the heavenly star bead, and help the little black dragon retrieve the dragon crystal. Ji Tianxing secretly made up his mind. One day, he would unravel the mystery. However, to get to the bottom of it, he had to be strong enough. Most importantly, he had to escape from this secret room and leave the demon cave. Today is the 6th chapter of the new week. Brothers, please vote for me. Thank you. Chapter 159. In the depths of the demon cave, in a spacious and dark secret chamber. Demons and ghosts were carved on the walls, and 8 stone lamps were lit in the 4 corners, emitting a dim yellow light. Many gems were inlaid on the ceiling, and they shone brightly as if they were forming some kind of array diagram. In addition to the cold and bloody aura in the secret chamber, there was also a mysterious aura. In the middle of the secret chamber, there was a blood pool with a radius of more than 10 meters. The pool was filled with dark red blood, and under the stimulation of the power of the formation, it was constantly flowing and surging. There was a statue in the middle of the blood pool. It was a devil with black wings, 4 thick arms, and a green face and fangs. The power of the entire blood pool was constantly converging on the statue, causing the black statue to faintly emit a bloody light. At this moment, the Blood Moon Infanta and the High Priest were standing at the edge of the blood pool and talking in a low voice. The High Priest said in a cold tone, "Blood Moon Infanta, I just went to the soul cell to check. More than 30 soul-binding chains were all severed, and the 39 souls that we imprisoned there were all rescued by those bastards from the Sky Pillar sect. That kid called Ji Ling was also rescued by the Sky Pillar sect disciples." The Blood Moon Infanta's blood-red eyes were filled with intense anger and killing intent. She furrowed her brows and gritted her teeth as she cursed, "Those damned Sky Pillar sect disciples. They actually snuck into the soul cell while we were out and released so many souls. Those are the souls that we have plundered for the past 100 years. Most of them have some clues in secret. Ji Ling's soul is related to the Sky Pillar sect's sealing array. We didn't even get the information about the sealing array, and Ji Ling's soul was rescued. Damn it. Damn it. If I catch them again, I will definitely refine them into blood and imprison their souls forever." The Blood Moon Infanta became angrier as she spoke. She was so angry that her body trembled, and she subconsciously slapped the blood pool under her feet. Bang! With a muffled sound, a 3-meter-tall wave swept up in the blood pool, and countless dark red blood droplets splashed out. The High Priest frowned and hurriedly crossed his arms over his chest, bowing to the statue in the blood pool in a strange manner. As he bowed, he also prayed a few words, which seemed to be some kind of scripture or incantation. After praying, he looked at the Blood Moon Infanta and said in a solemn tone, "Your Highness, please restrain your anger. Don't be disrespectful to the statue of the Demon Emperor." The Blood Moon Infanta was startled for a moment. Then, a look of shame and self-blame appeared on her face. She also crossed her arms and covered her chest, bowing to the statue of the Devil Emperor in the blood pool. She recited an incantation and apologized repeatedly. A moment later, the Blood Moon Infanta finished her prayer and said to the High Priest in a deep voice, "High Priest, I will personally lead a team of warriors to infiltrate the Sky Pillar sect again and take back Ji Ling's soul. Only by getting the secret of the sealing formation out of him can we save His Majesty as soon as possible." However, the High Priest shook his head and rejected her idea. "Your Highness, the Sky Pillar sect is already on guard and will definitely strengthen their defenses. You'll only be throwing your life away if you sneak into the Sky Pillar sect with your warriors. Not to mention, we have more important things to do. Investigating the Heavenly Star Bead is far more important than investigating the sealing formation." The Blood Moon Infanta frowned, and a look of doubt appeared in her eyes. "Investigating the Heavenly Star Bead now? How? Those souls in the soul prison have all been rescued. It's impossible for us to find any clues quickly." The High Priest smiled and said in a playful tone, "Didn't you capture a disciple of the Sky Pillar sect yesterday evening?" The Blood Moon Infanta frowned and said with a look of contempt, "That human brat? He's so weak, and he's not even 20 years old. How could he know about the Heavenly Star Bead?" The High Priest sneered and asked, "Blood Moon Infanta, you shouldn't have forgotten the first time we met that brat when we infiltrated the Sky Pillar sect a few days ago, right? Although he was as weak as an ant, a mysterious black hole suddenly appeared beside him and sucked away 60% of your power." The Blood Moon Infanta's expression became unnatural when this matter was mentioned. Her eyes were filled with shame and anger. "Humph! That damn brat must have some secret treasure to protect himself. Otherwise, with his strength, he would have been smashed into meat paste by me." The High Priest said with a smile, "You're right. He does have a secret treasure. When I rescued you, I sensed a mysterious and ancient aura in that black hole. According to the information left by the Demon King, that mysterious aura was very similar to the Heavenly Star Bead." The Blood Moon Infanta frowned in doubt. "Why does that brat have the aura of the Heavenly Star Bead?" The High Priest said calmly, "We'll only know after we investigate that brat. Although he's very weak, he might be related to the Heavenly Star Bead. If we can use him, we'll have a chance to find the Heavenly Star Bead. As long as we find the Heavenly Star Bead, we'll be able to find Kenshin's tomb. Our clan will be able to rise again and be more prosperous than 1,000 years ago. At that time, let alone a mere Tiantian region, our clan will be able to control the entire continent." The High Priest fantasized as he spoke. He became more and more excited, and his tone became more and more high-pitched. His eyes shone brightly. The Blood Moon Infanta frowned and became more and more confused. "High Priest, we only need to break the seal of the Sky-bearing sect and rescue the Demon King. At that time, as long as we use the Heavenly Star Bead to help the Demon King recover his vitality, our clan will be able to take revenge and easily control the Tiantian region. Isn't this what we've been working hard for? Why do we have to look for Kenshin's tomb? What does the Kenshin's tomb have to do with our clan's revival?" The High Priest looked at her deeply and chuckled. "Ha, Your Highness, you're still too young and know too little. It seems that the Demon King hasn't told you about the ancient legend of our clan." "What ancient legend?" The Blood Moon Infanta stared at the High Priest. Her heart was filled with doubt, shame, and anger. The High Priest's attitude made her feel that her dignity and status were being challenged and looked down upon. That legend was spread from 1,000 years ago. The High Priest looked at the Demon King's statue in the blood pool. His eyes were filled with reminiscence as he spoke slowly in a low voice. "Blood Moon Infanta, you should know that our clan's constitution is different from that of the human clan. Our body structure is also different. The human clan is born with an elixir field, but the demon clan doesn't have an elixir field. We only have meridians and strong bodies. We can't cultivate the 5 elements primordial chi like the human clan. We can only cultivate the blood demon path, Azura path, corpse demon path, and other evil secret technique. Because of this, the other clans in the world view us as the most vicious and vicious clan. They can't wait to kill us all. However, this wasn't the intention of our clan's ancestors. It was predestined. Our clan was also forced to do this. Although the evil secret techniques we cultivate can increase our strength quickly, they have unavoidable drawbacks. They cause great harm to our bodies. The stronger our clansmen are, the more intense the pain they have to endure during cultivation. Their bodies will also undergo various changes. In the end, they will become strange and ferocious monsters. Chapter 160. Hearing the high priest's words, the Blood Moon Infanta nodded in agreement. The secret technique of the blood demon sect that she cultivated required her to devour the blood essence of all living beings and absorb their essence and power. Although her strength could increase rapidly, allowing her to become an Origin Core Realm expert at the age of 20, she still had to endure the pain. However, the pain she had to endure every time she cultivated was also unimaginable to others. Every month, there would be a day when her body would uncontrollably change, turning her into a hideous monster. A row of sharp spikes would protrude from her spine, and wing-like black bones would grow from her shoulders. Even her head would become several times bigger, and her face would become ferocious. Every time her body changed, she couldn't bear the heart-wrenching pain, and she didn't dare to look at her hideous appearance. Many times, she couldn't help but imagine, what would she look like when she reached the Heaven Origin realm? Could it be that she would be like her father, the Demon King, and turn into a black monster the size of a hill? Every time she thought of her father's hideous appearance and how he stayed in the cave all year round and rarely went out, she shuddered. Therefore, she often wore a large black robe to cover herself completely, only revealing her eyes. She didn't want to expose her hideous side to others. At this time, the high priest's low voice became resounding, full of excitement and hope. Although our race has a blood feud with Kenshin, we have to admit that Kenshin is the world's #1 martial arts genius. The drawbacks and dangers of the demon sect's secret technique have always troubled our race since ancient times. However, 1,000 years ago, Kenshin created his own secret technique that perfectly solved our race's problem. Hearing this, the Blood Moon Infanta was full of doubts and couldn't help but ask, "High Priest, Kenshin isn't a demon. How could his secret technique solve our race's problem?" The High Priest narrowed his eyes and said in a playful tone, "Legend has it that the secret technique created by Kenshin requires one to destroy one's dantian to cultivate it. In other words, only those without an dantian can cultivate his martial arts and even reach the divine state." Hearing this, the Blood Moon Infanta was shocked. She couldn't help but widen her eyes in disbelief. "I see. My clan is born without a dantian. Isn't that the best way to cultivate the Kenshin secret arts? There's actually such a unique martial art in this world? Every human has a dantian, so who would destroy their own dantian just to cultivate his inherited supreme art?" The High Priest nodded and said meaningfully, "Yes, Kenshin's ultimate technique is the most unique in the world. If our clan can obtain his inheritance, we will be able to resolve our problems and obtain greater strength. Furthermore, when our race no longer cultivates the cruel secret arts of the Blood Devil Dao, the Azura Dao, and the Corpse Devil Dao, we will not incur the wrath of the other races. If we were to cultivate Kenshin's ultimate arts, we would be able to openly appear on the continent and rule over the major regions. We would no longer be besieged by other races, and we wouldn't have to hide in the dark underground anymore. At that time, why would our clan worry about not being able to rise again? With the talent of our clan, if we all cultivate Kenshin's ultimate techniques, we will definitely be able to crush other races and dominate the entire continent." The High Priest's emotions became high and excited. His blood boiled, and his eyes flickered with a dark red light. The Blood Moon Infanta's heart was also in turmoil. She was both shocked and excited. She was filled with anticipation and yearning for the legendary Kenshin's ultimate technique. She couldn't help but imagine that after she cultivated Kenshin's ultimate techniques, not only would she become stronger, but she would also be able to walk openly on the continent without turning into an ugly and ferocious monster. However, after calming down, she couldn't help but ask, "High Priest, we have been investigating the whereabouts of the heavenly astral bead. Could it be that the heavenly astral bead is related to Kenshin's ultimate techniques?" The High Priest nodded and said in a serious tone, "The heavenly astral bead is a treasure left behind by Kenshin 1,000 years ago. After Kenshin fell, his ultimate techniques were all in Kenshin's tomb. Countless experts in the world have been searching for it for nearly 1,000 years, but no one has been able to find it. However, as long as we find the heavenly astral bead, we can use it to sense the whereabouts of Kenshin's tomb. Only by finding the Kenshin's tomb can we obtain the Kenshin's ultimate techniques and allow our demon clan to be reborn. We can once again rule the continent and rule the world." Hearing this, the Blood Moon Infanta finally understood. No wonder her father spent hundreds of years to find the heavenly astral bead. She frowned and pondered for a while before saying seriously, "High Priest, since this is the case, I will temporarily ignore Ji Ling's soul. Let's go and investigate that human brat first. I hope he can really help us find the heavenly astral bead." The High Priest smiled and nodded. He said in a cold tone, "Which cell did you imprison him in? If we go and interrogate him now, we will definitely gain something." "He is in the 5th cell. I have sealed his acupoints and set up a formation in the cell." As the Blood Moon Infanta spoke, she followed the High Priest out of the blood pool and walked towards the door. Ji Tianxing was in a dark secret room. He waved his hands and released golden true essence to break the seal on the stone door. The seal on this secret room was very powerful. It was a supreme grade profound grade formation that could only be set up by an origin core expert. With Ji Tianxing's true essence realm strength, it was almost impossible for him to break the formation. However, his talent in formations was extremely high. He didn't need to completely break the formation. He only needed to break the formation on the stone door, and it would be enough for him to escape. Since 2 hours ago, he had been concentrating on breaking the formation. Now, he had already found the way to break the formation and broke a small gap in the formation on the stone door. In these 2 hours, his mind and true essence had been greatly consumed, causing his face to be pale and his body to be drenched in sweat. However, he was in high spirits and his heart was filled with anticipation. He didn't feel tired at all. According to his estimation, he would be able to break the formation on the stone door and escape from the secret room in 8 hours at most. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt that the seal on the stone door was fluctuating violently. The dark brown stone door actually lit up with a dark red bloodlight. Ji Tianxing understood that in such a situation, either someone had activated the formation or the formation had been attacked. However, he was more willing to believe that it was the former. "Oh no! It must be that damned demoness. She discovered that I was secretly breaking the formation and reactivated it." Ji Tianxing furrowed his brows and unwillingly gave up on breaking the formation. After a few breaths, the dark red blood light on the stone door actually dissipated with a bang. Immediately after, the stone door was pulled open from the outside. A graceful white figure instantly rushed into the secret room. When Ji Tianxing saw her clearly, he was stunned on the spot. Chapter 161. Without a doubt, this woman in a white dress was Yun Yao. Ji Tianxing never expected that Yun Yao, who had escaped from the demon cave, would actually return. "Eldest senior sister, why did you return?" Yun Yao's cold and worried expression eased when she saw that he was safe and sound. "I came back to save you." She didn't have time to explain anything. She only said a few short words before she pulled Ji Tianxing and rushed out of the secret room. Ji Tianxing's body shook, and a warm current flowed through his heart. He and Yun Yao were very clear about how dangerous this demon cave was. Yun Yao had clearly escaped from the clutches of the demon cave, and she was covered in injuries. Under such circumstances, Yun Yao still came back to save him without any regard for her own safety. How could he not be touched by such deep friendship? He simply couldn't believe that he was so important to Yun Yao that she would risk her life to save him. As he followed Yun Yao out of the prison cell and shuttled through the dark tunnel, he didn't forget to thank Yun Yao sincerely. "Eldest senior sister, thank you," Yun Yao said calmly. "I invited you to help me complete the mission. Of course, I won't leave you behind." In a moment, the two of them rushed out of the dark tunnel and entered the huge, empty cave. Yun Yao identified the direction and was about to run towards the exit with Ji Tianqing. At this moment, a stone door not far away opened. The Blood Moon Infanta and the High Priest, who were dressed in black robes, walked out of the stone door. The two of them were about to head towards the prison cell where Ji Tianqing was imprisoned when they suddenly saw Yun Yao and Ji Tianqing. Their expressions changed instantly, and a cold light and murderous intent flashed in their eyes. "Damn bastard! How dare you come back to save him? You're courting death!" The High Priest roared furiously. His figure turned into a black mist and pounced toward Yun Yao and Ji Tianqing. The Blood Moon Infanta also followed closely behind. She turned into a black shadow and rushed towards Ji Tianqing as fast as lightning. "Brat, you think you can escape after entering the Devil's Cave? In your dreams." She had originally wanted to kill Ji Tianqing. Now that she knew that Ji Tianqing was related to the Heavenly Star Bead, there was no way she would let Ji Tianqing go. Swoosh! Swish! In the blink of an eye, the High Priest and the Blood Moon Commandery Princess had arrived in front of Yun Yao and Ji Tianqing and launched an attack using Devil Dao's secret technique. Yun Yao and Ji Tianqing's expressions also became extremely ugly. Their eyes were solemn. At the critical moment, Yun Yao pushed Ji Tianqing away without hesitation and pushed him towards the exit of the Devil Cave. "I'll block them. Hurry up and leave." As she spoke, she waved her sword and sent out a sky full of sword radiance toward the High Priest and the Blood Moon Commandery Princess. A total of 49 sword radiances flickered with cold light, illuminating an area of dozens of meters and creating a terrifying hurricane. The High Priest untied the black snake whip from his waist and sent out a sky full of black light blades to block all 49 sword radiances. The black light blades and the sword radiances collided, creating a series of loud bangs that reverberated in the spacious cave. Ji Tianqing was pushed to the exit of the Devil Cave by Yun Yao, but he turned around and rushed back to her side without hesitation. "Eldest senior sister, let's leave together. You won't leave me behind, and I won't abandon you and run away." After speaking, he pulled out the Black Dragon sword and slashed at the Blood Moon Commandery Princess with all his strength. Swoosh! The 3-meter-long snow-white sword radiance slashed at the Blood Moon Commandery Princess' head with an overbearing power. The Blood Moon Commandery Princess used a Blood Devil Dao secret technique to form a pair of huge blood hands and block the attack with all her strength. Bam! Bam! The snow-white sword radiance collapsed, and her pair of blood hands were also chopped into pieces. However, she was not injured at all. She used the Devil Dao again and formed another pair of blood hands. She slapped at Ji Tianqing fiercely. Ji Tianqing hurriedly used the Shadowless Step to retreat and counterattacked with the Black Dragon's sword at the same time. Not far away, Yun Yao was fighting fiercely with the High Priest. She was also retreating while fighting. She didn't want to fight the High Priest head-on. She used all her strength to avoid the High Priest's attacks. She only used all her strength to block the High Priest's attacks when she couldn't. After 10 breaths, Yun Yao and Ji Tianqing were about to retreat to the exit of the Devil Cave. At this moment, Yun Yao formed a sword art with her left hand and waved her ice-cold sword with her right hand. 5 huge sword radiances were brazenly slashed out. Each sword radiance was 5 meters long and carried a terrifying power that could shatter heaven and earth. They fiercely slashed at the High Priest and the Blood Moon Commandery Princess. When she used this sword technique, her power was pushed to the limit. Her white dress fluttered in the wind, fluttering in the wind. Her pretty face, which was as pale as a sheet of paper, also showed an abnormal flush of red. Obviously, this was her ultimate killing move. After using it, her power would drop greatly. Therefore, she would not use it easily. Heavenly Star 5 Swords. 5 shocking sword radiances cut through the dark night sky like 5 thunderbolts. They were extremely violent. The Blood Moon Commandery Princess did not dare to take them head-on. She immediately retreated and dodged. Even the High Priest, who was the strongest among them, had a serious expression. He waved the black snake whip with all his strength and struck out hundreds of black sword radiances to resist with all his might. Bam! 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 Countless black sword radiances were shattered and exploded into clouds of black fog, causing the black fog within a radius of 10 meters to surge. The shocking sword radiances slashed on the ground and actually cut a 10-meter-long and half-meter-wide trench in the rocky ground. Dust and gravel flew up into the sky. Yun Yao did not expect the Heavenly Star 5 Swords to defeat the High Priest and the Blood Moon Commandery Princess. She only hoped to force them to retreat temporarily and win a chance to escape. Let's go! While the High Priest was resisting the sword radiances, she immediately pulled Ji Tianxing and rushed out of the exit. They ran madly in the dark tunnel. Both of them unleashed their last bit of potential and rushed out of the tunnel at the fastest speed. They rushed out of the cave outside the mountain. In less than 15 minutes, Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao rushed out of the dark tunnel and returned to the forest at the foot of the mountain. However, the High Priest and the Blood Moon Commandery Princess chased after them just as they rushed out of the Devil Cave. Little bastard! Don't even think about escaping! The High Priest was the first to catch up with Ji Tianxing. He waved the black snake whip in his hand and struck out hundreds of black light blades. They enveloped Ji Tianxing. Seeing this, Yun Yao rushed in front of Ji Tianxing without hesitation and waved her sword to help him block the attack. Bam! 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 With a muffled sound, Yun Yao was sent flying. She spat out a mouthful of blood and fell into the bushes 10 meters away. She was already seriously injured and had just used 30% of her power to execute the Heavenly Star 5 sword. Now, she was already an arrow at the end of its flight and was extremely weak. She could not even block a single attack from the High Priest. After the High Priest sent Yun Yao flying with a single attack, he waved the black snake whip again and attacked Ji Tianxing with incomparable ferocity. The Blood Moon Commandery Princess also rushed over. She raised a pair of large bloody hands and fiercely slapped down on Ji Tianxing. Facing the joint attack of 2 Origin Core Realm experts, Ji Tianxing did not have the slightest ability to resist with his strength. At the critical moment of life and death, his heart was filled with grief, indignation, and a monstrous killing intent. He exploded with all his strength and executed the shadowless steps with all his might to retreat and dodge. Even if it was futile, he would not give up resisting. Chapter 162. The High Priest and the Blood Moon Infanta were about to kill Ji Tianxing on the spot. At this critical moment, a black light burst out of Ji Tianxing's body. The black light contained the aura of death and was very mysterious. It formed a huge black hole and enveloped the High Priest and the Blood Moon Infanta. Their attacks were blocked by the mysterious black hole. The black hole released a strong devouring power and quickly devoured their cultivation. The High Priest and the Blood Moon Infanta were stunned. When they saw the mysterious black hole appear again, they were frightened. Damn bastard! It's this black hole again! The Blood Moon Infanta cursed in fear. She obviously hadn't forgotten the fear of having 60% of her cultivation devoured last time. That ancient aura appeared again. It's really similar to the aura of the Heavenly Star bead. Although the High Priest's face was full of fear, He felt the ancient aura in the black hole again and became excited. In just a few breaths, the blood moon Infanta and the high priest's cultivation was devoured. They struggled with all their might and tried to break free from the black hole. Ji Tianqing looked at the black hole in front of him, and then looked at the high priest and the blood moon Infanta, who were unable to move. He was also shocked and in disbelief. When the mysterious black hole appeared in the past, it was when he was unconscious. He didn't see it with his own eyes. He only heard from Qianyu that the mysterious black hole was very terrifying. It devoured all of Qianyu's cultivation and turned it from the size of a small mountain to the size of a small cat. At this moment, Ji Tianqing saw the mysterious black hole with his own eyes. How could he not be shocked? Finally, he managed to escape from death. Only then did his hanging heart relax, and he secretly thanked himself for his luck. After another 3 breaths, 50% of the high priest and the blood moon Infanta's cultivation was devoured. If this continued, their cultivation level would drop, and they wouldn't be able to recover even if they cultivated for half a year. At this moment, the high priest used a secret demonic technique to escape from the black hole. Demonic explosion! He shouted in a low voice and threw the black snake whip into the black hole reluctantly. He waved his hands and released black light and demonic energy to use the secret technique. Under his control, the black snake whip exploded in the black hole with a loud bang. Amidst an earth-shattering boom, the black snake whip transformed into a dazzling crimson light, bursting with an unparalleled force. Boom! The explosion of the black snake whip temporarily blocked the devouring of the black hole. At that moment, the high priest and the blood moon Infanta seized the opportunity to escape from the black hole and quickly retreated into the distance. The two of them stood 30 meters away, still in shock. They stared at the mysterious black hole with complicated expressions. The high priest sacrificed a black snake whip. His face was twisted with anger, and his heart ached to the extreme. Damn it! The artifact that I used 30 years of blood essence to nurture is gone just like that. The blood moon Infanta also gritted her teeth and cursed angrily. Damned reptile, it actually swallowed another 50% of the power I just recovered. This was the second time her cultivation had been devoured by the mysterious black hole. She was even more aware of how terrifying that mysterious black hole was. She had no room to resist at all. At the same time, the mysterious black hole suddenly disappeared. Ji Tianqing came to his senses, turned around, and fled into the distance without hesitation. The high priest and the blood moon Infanta immediately turned into black fog and chased after Ji Tianqing as fast as lightning. The two of them were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they rushed to within 10 meters of Ji Tianqing and were about to launch an attack with a secret technique. At this moment, Yun Yao had already used her power to suppress her injuries. She rushed out of the forest and came to Ji Tianqing's side. She took out the Xuanji pagoda and used a secret technique to control it. It released a dazzling golden light, forming a golden light shield that enveloped her and Ji Tianqing. "Junior brother Tianqing, let's go!" Yun Yao shouted in a low voice. She controlled the Xuanji pagoda to release a powerful and mysterious force. She took Ji Tianqing and flew into the sky. Swoosh! The golden light shield of the Xuanji pagoda enveloped her and Ji Tianqing. They flew out of the forest and toward the distant sky in an instant. In just a few breaths, the Xuanji pagoda took them across the mountains and valleys and disappeared into the gloomy sky. The high priest and the blood moon Infanta were unwilling to give up. They chased with all their might for a while, but they couldn't catch up. They had no choice but to give up the chase. The two of them cursed furiously before they turned around and returned to the demon cave. Swoosh! The golden light shield of the Xuanji pagoda was like a shooting star that streaked across the night sky. It brought Ji Tianqing and Yun Yao and landed on a mountain peak. After the two of them landed on the ground, the golden light shield of the Xuanji pagoda disappeared. It became dim and shrunk to the size of a palm. Yun Yao's injuries were extremely severe. When she controlled the Xuanji pagoda just now, she finally used up the last trace of vital essence in her body. After her feet landed on the ground, her body went limp and she fell into a coma on the grass. Senior sister, what happened to you? Ji Tianqing hurriedly held her in his arms and called out to her worriedly. However, Yun Yao's eyes were tightly shut. She was severely injured and unconscious. She was completely unconscious. Ji Tianqing hurriedly took out a healing elixir from his 100 treasures brocade pouch and gently placed it in her mouth. He then pressed his palm against Yun Yao's palm and transferred his vital essence into her body to help her refine the elixir. After doing all this, he could only pray silently that nothing would happen to Yun Yao. He hoped that she would wake up as soon as possible. He raised his head and looked at the sky. It was the darkest moment before dawn. It's going to be dawn soon. I have to bring senior sister and leave this place as soon as possible. Otherwise, we'll be dead if the demons come after us. At the thought of this, he hurriedly carried Yun Yao on his back and shuttled through the forest on the mountain peak to find the whereabouts of the spirit crane. He clearly remembered that Yun Yao and Bai Wuchen had left the spirit crane and the silver moonwolf on this mountain peak. The silver moonwolf might have been ridden away by Bai Wuchen, but the spirit crane might still be here. However, after searching around the mountain peak, he still couldn't find the spirit crane. The spirit crane must have flown away long ago, right? Even if I have to run on my feet, I'll carry senior sister back to the sect. Ji Tianqing made up his mind. He carried Yun Yao on his back and ran wildly through the forest, heading back in the direction of the Sky Pillar sect. Not long after, the darkness between heaven and earth dissipated, and a trace of white appeared on the horizon. A new day had arrived, and the sun was about to rise. Although Yun Yao wasn't seriously injured, Ji Tianqing was also seriously injured. He didn't have much vital essence left in his body. He carried Yun Yao and ran wildly over the mountains. He was still panting from exhaustion, and his vision was blurry. However, he gritted his teeth and persevered. He refused to stop even if he was drenched in sweat. He continued to run through the forest. It wasn't until 2 hours later that he had crossed several mountains and was far away from the Devil's Cave that he stopped to rest for a while. He ate 2 spirit fruits that could recover his vital essence. Only then did he regain some strength. Then, he carried Yun Yao on his back and continued to run. From the time he met Yun Yao until now, he had never been so close to Yun Yao. Yun Yao was lying on his back, unconscious. Her body was pressed tightly against his. He could clearly feel Yun Yao's graceful figure and smell the natural fragrance emitted from her body. This made him feel a strange feeling in his heart. He thought to himself, other than me, I'm afraid no one else has been so close to Yun Yao, right? Soon, another 2 hours had passed, and the sun had risen to the sky. Ji Tianqing was running through the vast mountain range. He climbed over a mountain that was thousands of feet high. When he reached the foot of the mountain, he met 2 young men in white robes on a grassland. The 2 young men had imposing appearances. Their white robes were of the same style, and they carried swords on their backs. They exuded the confidence and arrogance unique to sect disciples. Chapter 163. 2 young men blocked Ji Tianqing's path, sizing up Ji Tianqing with playful eyes. Ji Tianqing furrowed his brows with an indifferent expression. After sizing up the 2 young men, he was about to take a detour and leave. However, the 2 young men stopped him from both sides with mocking sneers on their faces. Oh, is this kid a disciple of the sky-bearing sect? This kid is wearing a green robe, so he should be an external disciple of the sky-bearing sect. What a coincidence, we actually met a disciple of the sky-bearing sect here. Heh, look at this kid carrying a female disciple. Oh, what a beautiful female disciple. Unfortunately, she is seriously injured and unconscious. Kid, you are so lucky to be carrying a female disciple on your back in such a hurry. Are you in a hurry to find a place to consummate your marriage? The two young men in white robes echoed each other and mocked Ji Tianxing in a vulgar tone and expression. Ji Tianxing was very anxious and only wanted to take Yun Yao back to the sect to heal her injuries as soon as possible. Being blocked by two young men in white robes for no reason and being ridiculed unscrupulously by the two young men in white robes, he became furious and his expression became gloomy. "I don't care who you are. Good dogs don't block the way. Get out of my way right now." Ji Tianxing yelled angrily in a cold tone and rushed forward with Yun Yao on his back. The two young men in white robes changed their expressions abruptly, revealing a furious expression. "Heh, you are very arrogant. You are really reckless. A mere external disciple of the sky-bearing sect dares to talk to us like this. The people of the sky-bearing sect are becoming more and more arrogant." The two young men sneered and pulled out the swords on their backs, blocking Ji Tianxing with their sword. "Kid, it looks like you are a newcomer, right? You don't even know the people of our Tianjian sect. We are the internal disciples of the Green Mountain sect. How dare you insult us? If we don't teach you a lesson today, others will think that our Tianjian sect is afraid of your sky-bearing sect." The two young men in white robes were angry. After reporting their identities, they approached Ji Tianxing with their swords, ready to attack. Ji Tianxing's face immediately turned cold, and his eyes were filled with anger. "Looks like the two of you are really looking for trouble?" Although he didn't know why the other party was hostile to the Sky Pillar sect's disciples, he didn't know why. However, the other party clearly had ill intentions and was deliberately targeting and making things difficult for him. Naturally, he would not tolerate it. He gently placed the unconscious Yun Yao on the grass. With the black dragon sword in his hand, he walked towards the two disciples of the Tianjian sect. Seeing his reaction, the two Tianjian sect disciples sneered with disdain. "Heh, the people of the Sky Pillar sect are indeed very arrogant. A mere outer sect disciple dares to be arrogant? Brat, your sky-bearing sect only controls the heavenly stellar region because of your reputation as a 1,000-year-old sect. It won't be long before our Tianjian sect replaces you. Today we will teach you an unforgettable lesson. Brat, remember that you have to avoid the people of the Tianjian sect when you see them." As soon as they finished speaking, the two disciples of the Tianjian sect waved their swords at the same time, sending out a few sword lights that flashed with cold light, attacking Ji Tianxing from both sides. Seeing the two unsheathing their swords, Ji Tianxing realized what was going on. The strength of these two inner sect disciples of the Tianjian sect was at most at the third level of the metaphysical realm. With a disdainful sneer, he pulled out the black dragon sword with a clang and swung it horizontally. Swish! The black dragon sword turned into a 3-meter-long snow-white sword light, exuding an extremely sharp and domineering energy, sweeping toward the two disciples of the Tianjian sect. As the snow-white sword light lit up, a translucent shadow of a flood dragon soared into the sky, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Bang bang! With a dull sound, the sword lights of the two disciples of the Tianjian sect were instantly smashed into pieces by the black dragon sword. The violent power of the black dragon sword, the huge and frightening snow-white sword light, and the soaring flood dragon shadow immediately frightened the two disciples, causing them to retreat in panic. However, the black dragon sword was too fast. By the time they realized that something was wrong, it was already too late for them to retreat. With two dull bang-bang sounds, the two disciples of the Tianjian sect were hit by the sword light. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and flew backward, smashing into the grass 10 meters away. The two disciples rolled several times in the grass before stopping. They lay on the ground, trembling like sifting chaff, and their faces were pale. Dark red blood gushed out of their mouths and dripped onto their white robes. It was a ghastly sight under the sunlight. The two disciples lowered their heads and looked at their abdomens in disbelief. They saw that there was a deep sword wound on their abdomens, and blood was constantly gushing out of the wound. The black dragon sword had cut open a crack in the mystic grade armor that they were wearing, and the armor was almost scrap. Neither of them had expected this result, and it filled their hearts with horror. They couldn't believe that an outer sect disciple of the Sky Pillar sect had such terrifying strength that he could seriously injure them with a single sword strike. If it weren't for the protection of their mystic grade armor, they would have been cut in half at the waist. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Ji Tianqing gripped the black dragon sword and walked over with a cold expression. His feet made soft sounds as he stepped on the soft grass. His face was ice cold, and his whole body was filled with a strong chill and killing intent. The two disciples of the Tianjian sect sat on the grass dejectedly. They looked at him approaching step by step with frightened and panicked expressions. "Brat, what do you want to do? Don't tell me you dare to kill us? We are inner sect disciples of the Tianjian sect. If you dare to kill us, our sect will definitely crusade against the Sky Pillar sect and seek justice for us." Obviously, the two of them had lost their fighting spirit after being defeated by Ji Tianqing with a single sword strike. Their hearts were filled with fear. They were in the remote wilderness. If Ji Tianqing really killed them, they would have died in vain. However, Ji Tianqing walked up to them and didn't immediately kill them. He looked down at the two of them with a disdainful sneer on his face. "Hee, I thought the disciples of the Tianjian sect were so outstanding and brave. I didn't expect that two inner sect disciples couldn't even take a single sword strike from me. From this, it can be seen how unbearable the Tianjian sect is. You're simply trash. You two trash kept saying that you wanted to teach me a lesson. What about now? I'll give you a chance to live. Kneel down and admit your wrongs." Ji Tianqing stood with his sword in hand and shouted coldly with a stern expression. The two Tianjian sect disciples were immediately enraged and were about to draw their swords to counterattack. However, Ji Tianqing casually slashed out with his sword and sent the two of them flying again. Their injuries were even more serious, and they lay on the grass vomiting blood. "Kneel down and apologize, or die," Ji Tianqing shouted coldly, his eyes surging with murderous intent. The two Tianjian sect disciples were completely shocked by him. They didn't know Ji Tianqing and didn't understand his nature. Just by looking at Ji Tianqing's posture, the two of them had no doubt that if they dared to resist, only death would await them. After hesitating for a moment, the two Tianjian sect disciples could only endure the humiliation and kneel on the ground to apologize to Ji Tianqing under the threat of death. "We were blind and shouldn't have offended Your Excellency. Your Excellency, please be magnanimous and spare our lives." Ji Tianqing watched the two of them endure the humiliation and kneel down to apologize. He sneered contemptuously and said, "Hee, you two are so greedy for life and afraid of death. In order to survive, you actually kneel down and beg for mercy. You two are cowardly trash who are greedy for life and afraid of death. How dare you call yourself a Tianjian sect disciple? How dare the Tianjian sect take in trash like you?" The two Tianjian sect disciples were so angry that they vomited blood. Their faces were ashen, and their bodies were trembling. If they didn't kneel down and apologize, Ji Tianqing would have killed them on the spot. Now that they had kneeled down and apologized, they were humiliated by Ji Tianqing. The two of them were full of regret. If they had known this would happen, they would have fought to the death? The 6th update has arrived. Please collect and recommend tickets. Thank you, brothers, for your generous rewards. Chapter 164. Since the two Tianjian sect disciples had already knelt down and apologized, Ji Tianqing didn't make things difficult for them. He put away the black dragon sword and returned to Yun Yao's side. Then, he turned around and left with the unconscious Yun Yao on his back. The two Tianjian sect disciples were filled with shame and resentment. They coldly stared at his back as he left. They couldn't help but say a few harsh words to Ji Tianqing, as if they were trying to regain some of their lost dignity. "Brat, don't be complacent. There will be plenty of time in the future. One day, I will personally wash away today's shame. In next month's Dragon Mountain tournament, our sect's disciples will definitely trample your Sky Pillar sect under our feet. Even if we aren't your match, our Tianjian sect will never lower our heads to your Sky Pillar sect. Ji Tianxing's footsteps paused as he frowned in confusion. Next month? Dragon Mountain tournament? Is it a competition between our sect and the Tianjian sect? He had never heard of this matter and didn't know what kind of grudges there were between the Sky Pillar sect and the Tianjian sect. However, he didn't ask the two Tianjian sect disciples. He silently kept this matter in mind and quickly left. After all, he didn't want to waste time on such trivial matters. He just wanted to take Yun Yao back to the sect as soon as possible to heal her injuries. 4 hours later, it was already noon. The scorching sun in the sky was like a fire, and the air in the mountains was a bit hot. Ji Tianxing had been running for 4 hours without stopping. During this time, he had been attacked by demonic beasts several times, and his life had been in danger several times. Fortunately, he had the black dragon sword in his hand. Every time, he was able to turn danger into safety. He used the black dragon sword to kill or repel the demonic beasts that attacked him. Now Ji Tianxing had run for 400 miles. He was exhausted and covered in sweat. His physical strength had been greatly consumed. When he passed by the peak of a mountain, he had no choice but to rest in the woods for a while. Then, he took out a pill and took it. Not long after he swallowed the pill, a series of muffled footsteps came from the mountainside, as if a huge beast was running in the mountain. Ji Tianxing's expression immediately changed. His eyes became solemn, and he clenched the black dragon's sword in his hand. Could it be that another demonic beast has smelled the scent of blood and is coming to attack me? He listened for a while and heard that there was more than one set of footsteps coming from halfway up the mountain. There are actually 3 demonic beasts, and they are rushing towards the mountain peak. After Ji Tianxing figured out the situation, he immediately carried the unconscious Yun Yao on his back, turned around and fled to the side. However, the heavy footsteps were getting closer and closer. Even though he was running with all his might, his speed was still not as fast as the 3 demonic beasts. After a few dozen breaths, 3 giant beasts of different colors rushed to the top of the mountain as fast as the wind. Ji Tianxing didn't have time to look back at the appearance of the 3 giant beasts. He gritted his teeth and ran as fast as he could. But at this moment, a shout full of anxiety and worry came from behind him. Ji Tianxing, is that you? Stop. Suddenly hearing this familiar voice, Ji Tianxing was stunned for a moment and hurriedly stopped in his tracks. He looked back and found that the 3 giant beasts rushing to the top of the mountain were actually spirit beasts ridden by people. The leading spirit beast was the silver moon wolf, and the person riding on its back was Bai Wuchen. He was the one who shouted just now. The 2 spirit beasts beside the silver moon wolf were the 2 jade white lions raised by the Sky Pillar sect. The 2 people riding the jade white lions were old men in purple robes. They were the 2 elders of the Sky Pillar sect. One of them was the owner of the mysterious treasure pagoda, the second elder. The other kind-looking old man was the spirit medicine elder of the spirit medicine hall. Ji Tianxing immediately understood that Bai Wuchen had returned to the sect to get reinforcements to save him and Yun Yao. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and relax his mind. At this moment, Bai Wuchen and the 2 elders rode their spirit beasts and rushed in front of him like a gust of wind. Seeing that he was carrying Yun Yao on his back and Yun Yao's clothes were stained with blood and she was unconscious, everyone was shocked. Ji Tianxing, what happened to eldest senior sister? Why is she unconscious? Bai Wuchen was the most anxious. He quickly jumped down from the silver moon wolf and rushed to Ji Tianxing's side to check on Yun Yao's injuries. The 2 elders also walked over quickly and checked on Yun Yao's condition with worried faces. Ji Tianxing nodded to the 2 elders as a greeting. Then, the spirit medicine elder checked on Yun Yao's injuries and used his cultivation to help her suppress her injuries. He didn't want her injuries to drag on for too long and damage her cultivation base. Since the second elder and Bai Wuchen couldn't help, they asked Ji Tianxing about what happened earlier. Ji Tianxing briefly told them about how Yun Yao saved him and how the two of them worked together to escape from the Devil's Cave. Of course, he didn't tell them about the mysterious black hole. When Bai Wuchen heard that Yun Yao was seriously injured and unconscious in order to save him, he was instantly filled with anger. He glared at Ji Tianxing angrily and shouted in a reproachful tone, "Ji Tianxing, eldest senior sister is precious. She's the future successor of the sect leader. How could you let her be so seriously injured? How could you bear to do that? If I were you, I would definitely help eldest senior sister. I'd rather be seriously injured myself." In fact, even if Ji Tianxing was killed by the Devil Clan, Bai Wuchen wouldn't have the slightest bit of pity. He would even be secretly delighted. However, the result was that Yun Yao was seriously injured and unconscious. This made him extremely worried, and at the same time, he hated Ji Tianxing to the core. Ji Tianxing's face darkened when he was reprimanded by Bai Wuchen in front of the second elder. He glanced at Bai Wuchen and sneered. "Even so, I'll live and die with eldest senior sister. We'll advance and retreat together. We'll never back down. Unlike some people who claim that they're calling for reinforcements, but in reality, they're just running away from the battle. They're as timid as a mouse." Bai Wuchen's face turned ashen when he heard that. He was furious and was about to explode. However, the second elder frowned and said in a dignified tone, "Wuchen, don't be reckless. Ji Tianxing is an outer sect disciple. With his true energy realm strength, it's already very lucky that he could join hands with Yun Yao to escape from the Devil's Cave. Moreover, he's already carried Yun Yao for more than 400 miles. He needs to rest now. In short, the three of you have completed the mission perfectly. You're all meritorious people. When you return to the sect master will definitely reward you." With the second elder's intervention, Bai Wuchen could only give up and suppress his anger. 15 minutes later, the spiritual medicine elder temporarily helped Yun Yao suppress her injuries. Everyone rode on their spirit beasts and left the mountain peak, returning to the Sky Pillar sect. The speed of the spirit beasts was naturally several times faster than Ji Tianxing's. 3 hours later, everyone returned to the Sky Pillar sect. After returning to the sect, the spiritual medicine elder brought Yun Yao to the spiritual medicine hall to treat her injuries. Ji Tianxing was about to return to the Wind Cloud courtyard when the second elder stopped him. "Ji Tianxing, the sect master has instructed that after you return to the sect, follow me to the Sky Pillar Palace to meet the sect master. He wants to reward you in person." Chapter 165. Ji Tianxing followed the second elder to the Sky Pillar Hall on the Red Firmament Peak. Along the way, he was still wondering what reward the sect master would give him. This time, he had helped Yun Yao retrieve Ji Ling's soul and kept the Sky Pillar sect's secret. This contribution was not big, but it was not small either. Ji Tianxing guessed that the sect master would most likely reward him with some cultivation techniques and pills, and then encourage him. After a while, he followed the second elder into the Sky Pillar Hall. Sect Master Chu Tianxing, who was wearing a golden robe, was sitting on the sect master's throne in the north. Ji Tianxing walked to the center of the hall and bowed to Chu Tianxing. Chu Tianxing nodded slightly, revealing a satisfied expression. His voice was as loud as a bell, and he spoke in a dignified manner. "Ji Tianxing, this time you assisted Yun Yao in carrying out a mission. You went deep into the demon race's stronghold and risked your life to retrieve Ji Ling's soul. This is a great contribution. You are a meritorious member of our sect, so I must reward you well." As he spoke, he took out a small white jade bottle and a diamond-shaped black token from his interspatial ring. "I see that your injuries are not light, so I will reward you with 3 dew pills. This is a high-grade black-grade pill. It can help you quickly heal your injuries without affecting your martial arts foundation. In addition, I will also reward you with this sky pillar token. With that, Chu Tianxing waved his hand and shot out a scarlet true essence that wrapped around the small white jade bottle and the sky pillar token. He flew them to Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing reached out to take the small white jade bottle and the sky pillar token. His eyes revealed a hint of doubt. The jade dew pill in the small white jade bottle was the best medicine for treating injuries. He was very clear on this point. However, he was puzzled as to why the sect master would reward him with this sky pillar token. Chu Tianxing saw his confusion and explained in a kind tone, "This sky-raising command token is my token. Only 6 disciples in the sect have it. You are the 7th. With this token, you'll be able to freely enter and exit the ancient star realm. You'll also be able to freely enter and exit the sect's inner and outer sanctum, the martial pavilion, the spirit medicine hall, and other important places." Hearing Chu Tianxing's explanation, Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows, his eyes flashing with surprise. With this token in hand, his status and authority were almost on par with the elders of the sect. Only 6 disciples in the Sky Pillar sect had the Sky Pillar token. He secretly guessed that the 6 disciples should be Yun Yao, Bai Wuchen, Hao Meng, and the others. They were all elite geniuses in the sect. In that case, wouldn't my position and power in the sect be the same as Yun Yao and the other elite geniuses? I only helped Yun Yao find Ji Ling's soul. It's enough for sect leader to reward me with 3 dew pills. Why did he reward me with a sky-raising token? This reward seems a little heavy? Although Ji Tianxing had obtained the Atlas Command badge that many disciples yearned for even in their dreams, this was a great honor. However, he didn't feel much excitement in his heart. Instead, he felt more puzzled and puzzled. He could clearly feel that sect leader Chu Tianxing seemed to have the intention of supporting him. However, this was a good thing for him. He really did need the authority brought by the sky-raising token to make it easier for him to move around the sect. While pondering silently in his heart, Ji Tianxing hurriedly accepted the white jade bottle and the sky-raising token and bowed to Chu Tianxing to thank him. "Thank you for the reward, sect leader. This disciple will cultivate diligently and not let the sect down." Very good." Chu Tianxing nodded and encouraged him with a gratified expression. "With your strength at the true energy realm, you were able to help Yun Yao complete the mission and escape the demon cave alive. This is really rare. It also proves that your aptitude is outstanding and your future is bright. From now on, you must not slack off. You must cultivate diligently and enter the inner sanctum in the future to become a mainstay of the sect. This is the only way to live up to my expectations of you." Ji Tianxing could tell that this was not the polite words that the sect leader used to encourage ordinary disciples. Sect leader Chu Tianxing obviously had high hopes for him and might even entrust him with important tasks in the future. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing thanked him again and then left the sky-raising hall. After leaving the Crimson Cloud Peak, he saw that it was still early, so he didn't return to the Wind Cloud courtyard. Instead, he went straight to the mountain peak to hide. After this mission, Ji Tianxing realized that he was unfamiliar with the other regions outside the Tianqian region. Apart from the Tianqian region, he didn't know about the other regions or the situation of the entire continent. If he wanted to quickly understand the various regions and the entire continent, the fastest way was of course to read and consult the history books. The inner sanctum at the peak of the mountain was a restricted area. Ji Tianxing didn't have the qualifications to enter in the past. Now it was different. With the sky-raising token in his hand, he could enter and leave all the important places in the sect at will. The inner sanctum was different from the martial arts pavilion. The martial arts pavilion was filled with martial arts cultivation techniques, as well as recipes and secret manuals for miscellaneous studies. However, There were no cultivation techniques or secret manuals in the library. There were only various history books, biographies, and ancient documents. The sky-raising sect was an ancient sect with thousands of years of history. It paid the most attention to inheritance and heritage. Therefore, the sky-raising sect's library could be said to be the largest and most complete library in the Tianshan region. There were hundreds of thousands of books in the entire library. They contained all kinds of strange knowledge and information, from astronomy and geography to local customs and so on. There was nothing that it didn't contain. When Ji Tianxing entered the library, he was stopped by the black-robed deacon who was guarding the door. He took out the sky-raising token and handed it to the black-robed deacon. The black-robed deacon was stunned on the spot. His face was filled with surprise and disbelief. The black-robed deacon knew very well that there were only 6 disciples in the entire sect who had the sky-raising token. They were all the elite geniuses in the inner sanctum. Ji Tianxing was only an outer sanctum disciple, but he actually had a sky-raising token. This was simply too unbelievable. If it wasn't for the sect master's special mark on the sky-raising token that couldn't be replicated, the black-robed deacon would have even doubted the authenticity of this token. After the black-robed deacon let him go with a complicated expression, Ji Tianxing entered the library and began to flip through various history books and biographies. He shuttled through the rows of bookshelves for a while before finding 2 books. He sat in front of the desk by the window and read them seriously. One of the books was General History of the Tianshan Continent. It mainly talked about the changes in history and geography of the Tianshan continent for the past 3,000 years. The other book was 9 Regions Wind and Cloud Records. It wrote about the 1,000 years of changes in the 9 regions of the Tianshan continent, as well as various strange stories. To other inner sanctum disciples, these 2 books were very ordinary and didn't pique their interest at all. However, to Ji Tianxing, who had never come into contact with such information, it was novel and interesting. The library was silent. The sunlight shone through the window onto the desk, illuminating his serious and focused face. At this moment, a beautiful young girl in a green dress walked into the Tibetan area. When she glanced at Ji Tianxing, who was focused on reading by the window, she couldn't help but be startled. Then, a faint smile appeared on her lips. Chapter 166. Ji Tianxing was engrossed in the book General History of the Tianshan Continent. Through this book, he understood that in this vast martial arts world, there were many vast continents. The Tianshan continent was just one of the countless continents in the martial arts world, a small place. On the Tianshan continent, there were a few to a dozen regions in each of the 4 cardinal directions. The entire continent had a total of more than 40 regions. In the southern part of the continent there were 9 large regions, and the Tianshan region was just one of them. Ji Tianxing also understood from the book that the Tianshan continent did not only have humans, but also a small number of other races, such as the Demon Clan and the Demon Clan. Although most of the Demon Clan's appearances were very strange, and most of them were very cunning. But the Demon Clan understood human nature, and many of them were kind-hearted and had a close relationship with humans, and would often move around in human territory. The Demon Clan was different. They were a bloodthirsty race by nature, and loved to fight and kill. Not only did humans hate the Demon Clan to the core, but even the Demon Clan saw them as their mortal enemy. Therefore, the Demon Clan was the public enemy of all races, and had no place to live on the continent, and could only hide in the underground world, struggling at death's door. After reading General History of the Tianshan Continent, Ji Tianxing finally had a certain understanding of the continent's geography and situation. Other than that, he also understood many ancient legends, and saw the names of many martial artists. Kenshin was one of them. In this book, a lot of ink was used to describe the legends of the sword god. According to the book's records, Kenshin rose to power 1,000 years ago. He only used a short 20 years to grow from an unknown martial artist to the top of the continent, and his name shook the Tianxian continent, and he had the qualifications to reach the immortal state. Tianxing was engrossed in the book when he heard a clear and melodious voice of a young girl. Tianxing, I didn't expect to meet you here. Hearing this familiar voice, Tianxing turned his head instinctively and saw Xian, who was wearing a long green dress and had a gentle temperament, walking over gracefully. He immediately smiled and greeted Xian. Junior sister Xian, what a coincidence. Are you here to read as well? That's right. Xian nodded her head and walked over to sit in front of him. Her movements were graceful and refined. She glanced at the two books in Tianxing's hands and couldn't help but be surprised. Tianxing, how do you know these books? From Xian's point of view, there were hundreds of thousands of books in the library, and they seemed to contain all kinds of martial arts secrets of the profound sky continent. Generally speaking, the reason why the disciples entered the library to read was to investigate all kinds of secrets and search for relevant clues. Tianxing, on the other hand, was actually holding two historical biographies and reading them with great interest. This was simply a waste of time. Facing the pure and kind Xian, Tianxing didn't hide anything. He smiled and explained, I don't know much about the various regions of the continent. I don't even know much about the situation in the heavenly stellar region. I don't even know much about the few great sects in the ancient star realm. That's why I want to read some books to get a better understanding of it. Just treat it as broadening my horizons. Xian nodded and smiled faintly. Actually, I've never left the heavenly stellar region, so I don't know much about the various regions of the continent. However, I do know a lot about the heavenly stellar region. If you want to know more about the situation in the heavenly stellar region, I can help you. Since Xian was willing to explain, Tianxing naturally couldn't ask for anything more. He smiled and nodded. Then I'll have to thank junior sister Xian. Tianxing, you're too polite. Xian revealed a faint smile and blinked her big clear eyes. All right, ask whatever you want to know. Tianxing thought for a moment and asked, Xian, tell me about the 8 great sects in the ancient star realm first. Xian nodded slightly and said unhurriedly, in the heavenly stellar region, there are as many martial arts forces as there are hairs on an ox. There are at least 10,000 martial arts sects of all sizes. However, the strongest forces, the sects that have the foundation and inheritance, are only the 8 great sections. Only the 8 great sects have the qualifications to enter the ancient star realm, the holy land of martial arts. Our Sky Pillar sect is a 1,000-year-old sect and the head of the 8 great sections. Our strength and foundation are the strongest. The other 7 sects are the Tianjian sect, the 9 Stars sect, the 6 Harmonies sect, the 1,000 Autumns sect. The strength and foundation of these 7 sects are weaker than our Sky Pillar sect. However, the Tianjian sect is the strongest among the 7 sects and has always been a formidable opponent of our sect. Hearing Xian mention the Tianjian sect, Tianxing thought of the 2 Tianjian sect disciples he had met before. Recalling the words of the 2 Tianjian sect disciples, he couldn't help but ask Xian, junior sister Xian, I heard that the Tianjian sect and our sect have always been at odds. The 2 sects even agreed on some Dragon Mountain tournament. What's going on? The smile on Xian's face disappeared and she said seriously, that's right. The Tianjian sect and our sect are indeed at odds. The disputes have been constant for 300 years. The patriarch of the Tianjian sect was also an influential figure 1,000 years ago. Just like our sect's patriarch, he received guidance from an otherworldly expert and obtained a great opportunity. 100 years after our sect was founded, the patriarch of the Tianjian sect finally comprehended the true meaning of the Sword Tao and reached the Heaven Origin realm. Only then did he establish the Tianjian sect and pass down the Sword Tao. Heaven Origin realm. Ji Tianqing was stunned and thought to himself, I've heard of this realm when I was in the Azure Cloud Nation. However, the Azure Cloud Nation has never had a powerhouse of this level, so I thought that the Heaven Origin realm only existed in legends. I didn't expect that there would be a Heaven Origin realm powerhouse among the 8 great sects of the ancient star realm. Xian nodded and said, That's right. Only a Heaven Origin realm powerhouse can fly and travel the Tianxian continent. They can also establish their own sect and rule over a region. However, Tianqing, don't be surprised. Our sect has 2 Heaven Origin realm powerhouses now. That's why our sect can remain at the top of the 8 great sections. Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, Junior sister Xian, please continue. Xian continued, the Tianjian sect passes down the sword Dao. Every disciple in the sect has a murderous aura. That's why the sect's power is growing stronger and stronger. As the saying goes, 2 tigers cannot live on one mountain. The Tianjian sect has long coveted our sect's throne and tried to replace us and control the Tianqian region. For the past 300 years, the Tianjian sect and our sect have been in constant conflict. They often fight over resources such as spirit veins, spirit mines, and herb gardens. However, the power between the 8 great sects is complicated. The Tianjian sect and our sect both have to consider the big picture. It's impossible for them to fight openly. Therefore, the 2 sects have made various agreements and competitions. The winner of the competition will determine the ownership of some territories. As for the Dragon Mountain tournament you mentioned, it's a competition held every 3 years for the ownership of the Dragon Mountain. The Tianjian sect and our sect are the same. They recruit a new batch of disciples every 3 years. The new disciples can participate in the Dragon Mountain tournament in the 3rd month after joining the sect. If our sect's disciple wins, the Dragon Mountain will belong to our sect for the next 3 years. Chapter 167. Ji Tianqing listened attentively as Xian talked about the Dragon Mountain tournament. After hearing Xian's words, he frowned as a thoughtful look flashed across his eyes. Junior sister Xian, so only the new outer disciples can participate in the Dragon Mountain tournament, right? That's right. Xian nodded. In every Dragon Mountain tournament, our sect and the Tianjian sect will send 3 disciples to participate in the tournament. These 3 disciples are all from the Fengyan sect. Ji Tianqing wasn't surprised by this. The new disciples who had just joined the sect for 3 months didn't improve much. Of course, the geniuses from the Fengyan sect were stronger. He pondered in his heart and asked, Junior sister Xian, what kind of place is Dragon Mountain? Why did the Tianjian sect and our sect fight over it? Xian gazed at him and explained with a smile, Dragon Mountain is 300 miles north of our sect. It's at the border between our sect and the Tianjian sect. It's said that thousands of years ago, a divine dragon lived in the star ancient realm and cultivated in that mountain. The divine dragon cultivated in the mountain for thousands of years and achieved great success. Then, he flew away. That mountain was tainted by the divine dragon's aura for thousands of years and became a land of treasures. Mineral veins were born in the mountain and produced all kinds of ores for refining tools, as well as precious gems and spirit stones. The flowers and trees in the mountain were also tainted with spirituality and became spiritual flowers and spiritual herbs, making Dragon Mountain a natural spiritual herb garden. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing suddenly understood. I see. There are mineral veins inside Dragon Mountain and natural spiritual herb gardens outside. It's indeed a land of treasures. No wonder the Tianjian sect wants to compete with our sect. Xian smiled and said, although Dragon Mountain is precious, there are many similar lands of treasures in the star ancient realm. In fact, our sect and the Tianjian sect are competing for more than just Dragon Mountain. There are many other lands of treasures. The inner disciples of the two sects participate in the Heavenly Spring Tournament every few years to compete for the more precious Heavenly Spring treasures. However, only eldest senior sister and a few others are qualified to participate in the Heavenly Spring competition. Ji Tianxing didn't ask any more questions. He just silently noted down this matter. After that, he chatted with Xian Xian for a long time and asked her many questions about the Tianjin region. Xian Xian was extremely patient and answered every question for him in detail, allowing him to have a deeper understanding of the situation in the heavenly stellar region. Unknowingly, it was already evening, and the sun was about to set. Ji Tianxing and Xian Xian walked out of the cave side by side and waved goodbye at the entrance. After returning to his residence in the Tempest Courtyard, Ji Tianxing entered the secret chamber and began to circulate his energy to treat his injuries. On the surface, he seemed to be in good condition, and there were no obvious wounds. However, in reality, his internal organs had already been severely injured by the Blood Moon Infanta's palm a few times. Ji Tianxing sat cross-legged in the secret room and took out 2 small white jade bottles from his 100 treasures silk pouch. Among them was a small white jade bottle containing 3 dew pills. These were the excellent pills that sect Master Chu Tianxing had rewarded him. The other small bottle contained a mystic gold secret pill, which was the reward he had received from the last month-end assessment. Previously, he had only taken 1 pill and kept the other one. I'll take the dew pill first to treat my internal injuries. After my injuries are healed, I'll circulate my energy and cultivate for a few days, striving to increase my strength by another level. After the trip to the Demon Cave, Ji Tianxing had personally experienced a life-and-death crisis and also witnessed the terrifying strength of a primordial core expert. In front of the powerful demoness and high priest, he deeply felt his own weakness. He secretly urged himself to increase his strength as quickly as possible so that he could have the qualifications to fight against the demon clan and search for the heavenly star bead and the whereabouts of the Ji clan's ancestor. After that, Ji Tianxing took a dew pill and began to circulate his energy to treat his injuries. Once the pill entered his throat, it turned into a cool and gentle stream of energy that spread throughout his body and naturally flowed through his meridians. Ji Tianxing could clearly feel that the cool stream of energy from the dew pill contained a majestic amount of medicinal power. However, that medicinal power was not the slightest bit forceful and overbearing. It did not make him feel any discomfort. Instead, it was incomparably comfortable. When the majestic medicinal power flowed through his meridians and surged into his internal organs, the burning sensation and pain in his internal organs immediately vanished into thin air. In the blink of an eye, he completely did not feel any pain, as if he had never been injured before. Such miraculous healing effects made Ji Tianxing rather surprised. He thought to himself, the effects of this dew pill are truly miraculous. It far surpasses ordinary black-grade, high-grade medicinal pills. I'm afraid that this dew pill is a peerless grade medicinal pill personally refined by the spirit medicine elder, right? I reckon that only Yun Yao by Wuchen and those elite geniuses have the qualifications to use these spirit pills. As the pain in his body lessened, the medicinal effects of the dew pill also rapidly healed his injuries. He hurriedly collected his thoughts and focused on circulating his energy to treat his injuries. Time passed quietly. A night passed very quickly. Ji Tianxing circulated his energy to treat his injuries for an entire night. By the next morning, his injuries were actually 80% healed, and that dew pill's medicinal strength was only around 50% consumed. It was still continuing to flow within his body. The dew pill's extraordinary medicinal effects truly made him feel astounded. Ji Tianxing did not end his cultivation. He continued to refine the dew pill's medicinal strength to recover his injuries. Several hours later, his injuries were basically healed. But the dew pill's medicinal strength still had leftovers. In order to not waste the spirit medicine's medicinal strength, He borrowed the dew pill's medicinal strength to circulate his energy and cultivate, continuing to temper the sword vein within his body. Prior to this, Ji Tianxing already had true element realm 7th level strength. Of the 9 main meridians, 3 were already tempered into sword veins. He borrowed the dew pill's leftover medicinal strength and circulated his energy to cultivate for another 2 days. He actually tempered out a 4th sword vein. Ordinary meridians were dark red in color, resembling a series of formless passageways. There was true essence qi flowing within the passageways. But after his meridians were tempered into sword veins, they became dark gold in color. Sword veins were not only sturdier and more resilient than ordinary meridians, they could also contain more boundless true essence. The difference between the two was like the difference between a large river and a small stream. Just the dew pill's leftover medicinal strength can actually help me temper out a sword vein. This is too inconceivable. Ji Tianxing deeply felt the dew pill's powerful effect. His mood was somewhat excited and expectant. Since that's the case, then I might as well consume the remaining 2 dew pills and borrow the powerful medicinal strength to continue tempering out a few more sword veins. Hence, he swallowed the remaining 2 dew pills into his abdomen. The dew pills transformed into a vast and mighty cool air current, surging and surging within his body, faintly giving off the sound of a surging river. He concentrated wholeheartedly on tempering the sword vein, entering into a state of total oblivion. The sun and moon rose from the east and set in the west. Time passed quietly. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days passed by the time Ji Tianxing completely refined the medicinal strength of the 2 dew pills. It was already a matter of 9 days later. At this time, he actually succeeded in tempering out 4 more sword veins. He had a total of 8 sword veins. His strength had also increased by several times. He was only half a step away from the mystic comprehending realm. This is the 4th chapter of today's update. There are a total of 7 chapters released today. The remaining 3 chapters will be released one after another. Brothers, please vote for me. Chapter 168. After finishing his cultivation, Ji Tianxing walked to the corner of the secret room and stood in front of the psychic stone pillar. There was a psychic stone pillar in the secret room of the Fengyan courtyard disciples, which was used to test their strength. Ji Tianxing could feel that he had reached the peak of the true energy realm. He was only half a step away from the mystic comprehending realm. He only needed to refine the last sword vein. However, he had to use the psychic stone pillar to test his true strength. His eyes were filled with anticipation. He slowly stretched out his hand and pressed it on the psychic stone pillar. The sword embryo in his body released powerful true core strength, which flowed into the psychic stone pillar through his palm. Immediately, the black lines on the stone pillar reacted, and several crimson rays of light lit up. 1, 2, 3. 9 rays of light. I have reached the 9th level of the true energy realm. Just as I guessed, as long as I refine the last main vein into a sword vein, I can reach the mystic comprehending realm. Ji Tianxing withdrew his hand. His eyes were filled with joy and anticipation. After a while, he calmed down and murmured, I've been cultivating in seclusion for 9 days and jumped from the 7th level of the true energy realm to the 9th level. This is the magical effect of the dew pill. However, martial arts cultivation needs to be done step by step. A sudden increase in strength will cause the foundation of martial arts to be unstable, and my future achievements will be limited. I have to take the dark gold secret elixir again to strengthen and refine my true core strength and strengthen my foundation of martial arts. Although Ji Tianxing was only 17 years old, he was experienced in martial arts and would not be greedy. The recent encounters and dangers had made him more calm and reserved. He was neither arrogant nor rash. Next, Ji Tianxing took the dark gold secret elixir and cultivated for a few hours to stabilize his foundation of martial art. He did not stop cultivating until the sun rose and walked out of the secret room. At this time, the other disciples of the Fengyan courtyard had already walked out of their rooms. They were gathered in the courtyard in twos and threes, discussing something in low voices. Seeing Ji Tian walk out of the room, all the disciples were stunned for a moment, and cast strange gazes at him one after another. Everyone looked at him for a moment, then began to whisper to each other. Under the great banyan tree, Gu Jianming, Yi Chongxing, and the others whispered to each other with strange expressions. Ji Tianxing, this brat is really arrogant. Tsk. This guy hasn't appeared for half a month. I thought he had left the storm courtyard. He. Deacon Han repeatedly told everyone to train hard, and this brat still dared to disappear for half a month. How audacious! In this half a month, Deacon Han has been teaching in the main hall every morning, teaching everyone the Tao of array formations. Ji Tianxing, this brat, actually didn't even attend a single class. At the stone table beside the ancient well, Emo and Shi Jingqing were discussing with sneers on their faces. He is too arrogant. You think you can be so arrogant just because you got first place in the alchemy test last month? You're so arrogant that there's no cure. Humph. Ji Tianxing should be the most arrogant disciple in the storm courtyard, right? Today is the mid-month quiz. Later, Deacon Han will test everyone. Ji Tianxing didn't even attend a single class. I want to see how he ends up today. Last month's first place is going to be punished today. Just thinking about it makes me excited. In the corner of the courtyard, Lu Mingyang also stopped sweeping. He was holding a broom and looking at Ji Tianxing with ridicule. Ji Tianxing, oh Ji Tianxing, you're too complacent. In today's mid-month quiz, you will definitely be defeated and become a laughingstock. I will take advantage of this to become famous and take first place. Although Ji Ling was expelled from the sect, I will never let you go. Ji Tianxing stood under the eaves at the entrance. Looking at the complicated expressions of the 8 disciples, he couldn't help but frown. Is there something wrong with these people's brains? I didn't do anything. Why are they all so jealous of me? At this moment, the door next door opened. Nie Hao walked out of the room and stood under the eaves to stretch. Obviously, he had also just finished cultivating. He turned his head and saw Ji Tianxing. He couldn't help but be stunned. Then, he walked to Ji Tianxing's side and said with a playful smile, Brother Ji, oh Brother Ji, where have you been for the past half a month? Why haven't you shown your face even once? Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and smiled. I was really too busy before. After dealing with some matters, I went into seclusion to cultivate for a few days. I didn't expect that half a month would pass in the blink of an eye. Nie Hao smiled bitterly and shook his head. He said with a helpless tone, Brother Ji, in the past half a month, you haven't even attended Deacon Han's class. The other disciples are all talking about you behind your back. Ji Tianxing glanced at the 8 disciples in the courtyard and sneered disdainfully. They're all a group of shady villains who only know how to hurt others behind their backs. There's nothing to be afraid of. Nie Hao nodded and patted his shoulder. It's good that Brother Ji understands. Don't worry about them. However, today is the mid-month exam. Deacon Han is going to test everyone today. Brother Ji, you have to be careful. Those people are waiting to see you make a fool of yourself. Ji Tianxing frowned slightly as a disdainful sneer appeared on his face. These shady villains want to see me make a fool of myself? Dream on. Nie Hao immediately laughed and gave him a thumbs up. Although he didn't say anything, his gesture was enough to explain everything. Soon, the bell rang in the main hall. The disciples in the courtyard all stopped their discussions and rushed towards the main hall. Ji Tianxing also walked to the main hall with Nie Hao. His expression was calm and his eyes contained a hint of confidence. Although in the past half a month, he hadn't even attended a single array class. However, he already had a foundation in array Tao and was extremely talented. After Xiang Wuji's guidance, his array Dao attainment had greatly improved. Even if he wasn't proficient in array Dao, it wouldn't be a problem for him to pass Han Qiusheng's test. Of course, previously when he assisted Yun Yao in carrying out a mission, he experienced a series of life and death crises. He deeply understood the importance of array Dao attainment. He also truly understood Han Qiusheng's good intentions. The array Dao was inextricably linked to martial artists. When martial artists roamed the world, they could use array Dao anytime and anywhere. Critical moments, they could even save their lives. He had already secretly decided that after today's exam, he would work even harder to study array Dao and improve his array Dao attainment. After a while, Ji Tianxing and the disciples gathered in the main hall. Han Qiusheng and Du Wu also entered the main hall. Han Qiusheng walked to the main seat and looked at everyone with a dignified gaze. He said in a serious tone, "Half a month has passed. I believe that everyone has cultivated diligently and has already started. Today, I want to test the results of your studies in the past half a month. I want to see if you have cultivated diligently. For this test, I won't ask you any questions. I'll let you answer them." This seat has already set up a profound grade-low-grade refinement grand formation to test all of you. Chapter 169. Hearing Han Qiusheng's words, the faces of the disciples changed. They all thought that Han Qiusheng would ask questions in front of everyone like he did in last month's quiz. For this reason, they had been listening to classes every day for half a month and had memorized the 2 thick books on array formations. They thought that they were well prepared and were determined to pass today's quiz. However, they did not expect that Han Qiusheng would not ask questions and directly use array formations to test them. This was simply a bolt from the blue, causing the disciples to panic. Fortunately, Han Qiusheng changed the topic and said loudly, "However, everyone need not worry. As long as you study diligently for half a month, you will pass the test." This profound grade array is a type of trap array called the mother-child profound array. There are other smaller arrays in the array that require everyone to consider before they can be broken. I have placed 10 identity tokens in the mother and child profound formation. Each token has your name on it. What you need to do is to enter the mother-child profound array, find your identity token, and smoothly walk out of the array. After hearing Han Qiusheng's words, everyone's hearts calmed down. They silently speculated about the mysteries of the mother-child profound array. Subsequently, Han Qiusheng and Du Wu led everyone out of the hall and into the backyard of the storm courtyard. In the backyard, there was an open space with a radius of 10 meters. The ground was covered with silver and black stone slabs that were engraved with various patterns and patterns. Ji Tianxing could tell at a glance that there was an array set up in that area. It should be the mother-child profound array that Han Qiusheng had mentioned. Sure enough, Han Qiusheng waved his hand and shot out rays of true essence into the stone slabs on the ground to activate the mother-child profound array. Swoosh! Powerful true essence burst out from the stone slabs and lit up with dazzling white light, forming a white light shield with a radius of 10 meters. Everyone stared at the white light shield and could not see the scene inside the array. They did not know what kind of test was waiting for them. Everyone, the time limit for this test is 2 hours. You must find your identity medallion within 2 hours and successfully walk out of the formation. Only then will you pass. After saying that, Han Qiusheng let the 10 disciples scatter and enter the mother-child profound array from different directions. Swoosh! 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 Swish! After a flash of white light, the 10 disciples all passed through the white light barrier and entered the mother-child profound formation. The courtyard quieted down, leaving only Han Qiusheng and Du Wu. Du Wu frowned and said to Han Qiusheng in a low voice, "Brother Han, who do you think can seize first place in this test?" Han Qiusheng's lips curled into a smile as he said confidently, "I think it's very likely to be Lu Mingyang. Although this kid has been silent for the past half a month, he hasn't revealed his talent. but I've long seen through it. In fact, he was already proficient in the Tao of formations before he entered the sect. He was punished by me to sweep the floor for a month, and his heart has long since been filled with rage and hatred. He vowed to seize first place in this month's test and wash away his shame. Obviously, Duwu also realized this point. He immediately nodded and said, "Yes, Lu Mingyang has the strength of the mystic comprehending state and is proficient in the formation doctrine. The first place in this assessment is definitely him." However, Ji Tianxing, that brat, has indeed become a little arrogant in the past half a month. He actually didn't come to class even once. Arrogant? Han Qiusheng raised his eyebrows and revealed a playful smile. This brat seems to be silent, but he's actually calm and steady. He's definitely not an arrogant person. I've already asked the elders a few days ago. It's not that the brat didn't come to class on purpose. He just went out to assist Yun Yao in carrying out a mission. Du Wu finally understood and smiled embarrassedly. Haha, so I've misunderstood him. Brother Han, you've paid more attention to him. However, this brat has been delayed for half a month after all. I'm afraid he'll come in last today, right? Han Qiusheng frowned and thought for a moment. He shook his head and said, "I don't think so. This brat has already become familiar with the old man from Great and Palace." "What kind of person is that old man?" "He only needs to give a little guidance to Ji Tianxing, and it'll be enough for Ji Tianxing to pass the test." Du Wu thought for a moment and felt that it made sense, so he didn't say anything else. Now, his thoughts were the same as Han Qiusheng's. They both felt that Ji Tianxing had hope of passing the test. As for Ji Tianxing obtaining first place, they really hadn't thought about this question, and they couldn't believe it. Ji Tianxing looked at the scene in front of him. He wasn't in a hurry to act. His eyes were sharp as he observed. After entering the mother-child Xian formation, he appeared on a stone platform. There were 9 steps below the stone platform. At the end of the steps was a 10-meter-wide bluestone passageway. The passageway was built with huge bluestones, and it exuded an ancient aura. The entire passageway was 100 meters long. At the end of the passageway was a 10-meter-tall black stone door. The passageway wasn't completely dark. On the walls on the left and right sides, there was a vitality stone lamp every 10 meters. It was lit with a dim yellow light. Ji Tianxing observed for a moment and realized that the bluestone walls were engraved with array patterns and symbols. Obviously, this seemingly quiet and flat passageway was filled with arrays and hidden weapons. If he wanted to pass through the 100-meter passageway and reach the black stone door on the other side, he would have to go through a test. "I'm the only one in the passageway. It seems that the 10 of us will have to pass through the bluestone passageway alone and open the black door. Since Deacon Han has set up this mother-child Xian formation to test the 10 of us, it shouldn't be too difficult." Ji Tianxing muttered a few words in a low voice. Then, he walked down the steps and walked towards the bluestone passageway. When his feet stepped on the bluestone floor of the passageway, the test had begun. The bluestone floor under his feet and the bluestone walls on both sides emitted a dull rumbling sound. It seemed that some mechanism had been activated. He walked forward cautiously. His feet kept stepping over one bluestone slab after another. In the blink of an eye, he had walked 3 meters away. But at this moment a strange change occurred. Ji Tianxing's right foot stepped on a bluestone slab. That slab suddenly sank, revealing a black hole that was as thick as a water bucket. Caught off guard, his right foot also sank into the bluestone slab. His body also leaned forward and he was about to fall to the ground. At this critical moment, he suddenly exerted strength from his waist. He immediately straightened his body and forcibly retracted his right foot. Almost at the same time as he retracted his right foot, 3 sharp spears emerged from the black hole with a schwa 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 sound. That was close. If I had retracted my foot a little slower, I would definitely have been pierced by the spears. Ji Tianxing frowned. He went around the 3 spears and continued to move forward. After 5 steps, the bluestone slab that his left foot stepped on suddenly sank. This time, he was prepared. He immediately retracted his left foot and stood firmly on the spot. However, a few black holes suddenly appeared on the stone walls on both sides. More than 10 sharp arrows shot out from the holes. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. More than a dozen sharp arrows whistled through the air and shot towards him as fast as lightning, accompanied by a sharp sound of breaking through the air. Ji Tianxing calmly jumped back 5 steps and dodged the attack of those sharp arrows. More than 10 sharp arrows brushed past his shoulder and missed by a hair's breadth. The sharp force of the arrows cut his skin painfully. However, when he hurriedly retreated, he triggered another mechanism. The arrays on both sides of the walls were activated. 6 crimson sword auras flew out. They were accompanied by intense flames and pierced towards him at an extremely fast speed. Each sword aura was more than a meter long. They were lifelike and looked like fiery red treasured swords. They were also very powerful, comparable to the attack of a Tongxian expert. At this critical moment, Ji Tianxing did not retreat. Instead, he rushed forward and tried his best to avoid the 6 flaming sword auras. Swish, swish, swish. The 6 sword auras brushed past him. The rising flames curled the ends of his hair and scorched the sleeves of his robe. The 6th update has been delivered. There will be another update later. Please wait for a moment. Chapter 170. Ji Tianxing frowned as he looked at his curly hair and burnt sleeves. It can't be. It's just a mid-month test. Why is Deacon Han so ruthless? The power of the first round is already so strong. Wouldn't those weaker disciples be injured or even killed? He knew clearly that the flaming sword rays that shot out from the 2 walls were extremely violent. It was equivalent to the attack of a level 4 Tongxian realm expert. With his current combat power, he could easily defeat a level 3 Tongxian realm expert. However, he was still defeated by the flaming sword rays. He could not help but suspect that if the other disciples triggered the mechanism and were attacked by the 6 flaming sword rays, wouldn't they be turned into barbecued meat? Ji Tianxing stood still and frowned as he pondered. No. If even I can't pass, the other 8 disciples will definitely fail. Deacon Han only wants to test us, not take our lives. Therefore, we can't force our way through this tunnel. There must be a way to break it. I haven't listened to Deacon Han's lessons, but the other disciples have listened to his lessons for half a month. They must have learned the way to break it. Deacon Han only wants to test if they are diligent in learning. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing understood Han Qiusheng's intention. He started to observe the limestone tunnel carefully, studying the array patterns and symbols on the walls, and pondering the way to break the array. The limestone tunnel fell into silence as time passed by quietly. Ji Tianxing carefully observed for a quarter of an hour and finally found some clues. He pondered for another 15 minutes and finally found a way to break the array. He also made a new discovery. On the surface, it seemed that he needed to break through the limestone tunnel, avoid the various mechanisms, concealed weapons and arrays in the tunnel, and finally open the black stone door on the other side. But in reality, he found that after breaking the array in the limestone tunnel, it would open up a very concealed small tunnel. After passing through that small tunnel, he would be able to reach the center of the mother-child profound formation, which was the place where the 10 identity tokens were stored. Understanding this point, Ji Tianxing immediately revealed a face full of smiles, and his eyes became playful. Haha, Deacon Han has indeed put in a lot of effort. As expected of the mother-child profound formation, there are still various small formations hidden within the large formation. Only mediocre people would pass through the limestone passageway and open the black stone door. True geniuses don't even need to pass through the passageway or open the stone door. They can directly reach the center of the formation. After laughing softly for a while, Ji Tianxing stopped laughing and his expression became serious and focused. He waved his hand and shot out several streaks of golden true essence into the bluestone wall. He began to crack the array. Meanwhile, in a dim bluestone passageway, Emo was walking confidently through the bluestone passageway, rushing towards the black stone door on the other side. He did not charge blindly, nor did he walk in a straight line. Sometimes he advanced, sometimes he retreated, and sometimes he moved left and right. His feet were moving in a profound and mysterious way, and he was reciting a set of steps: 3 to advance and 1 to retreat, 6 to the left and 5 to the bottom, 2 to the universe and 4 to the earth. Feigning to enter Zhongyuan in real time, while feigning to enter Yangke in real time, obviously, Emo was following this set of steps, moving forward in the bluestone passageway. After a short quarter of an hour, he had passed through the bluestone passageway without triggering a single hidden weapon or mechanism. He had successfully arrived at the black stone door. When Emo stood in front of the black stone door, his tense nerves finally relaxed, and a confident smile appeared on his face. Ha 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 ha! I, Emo, am indeed a genius. Not only am I proficient in alchemy, but I also have such a high aptitude for formations. In the past half-month I have been listening to Deacon Han's lectures every day, and I have been especially serious and hard-working. Now it seems that my hard work will soon pay off. I am very likely to win first place. The 7 profound formula that Deacon Han taught is the universal formula to crack all kinds of formations. Fortunately, I had the foresight to memorize the 7 profound formula and recite it backward. Just as I expected, the hidden weapons and formations that Deacon Han set up in this bluestone passageway all contain the mysteries of the 7 profound formula. It only took me a quarter of an hour to distinguish that the formation in this passageway uses the 4th profound formula of the 7 profound formula. I only need to follow the formula of the 4th profound formula, and I can easily pass. I admire my genius and wit, ha 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 ha. Thinking of this, Emo became more confident, and his face was full of complacency. He groped for a moment on the left side of the black stone door, opened a secret compartment on the wall, and found a palm-sized black wheel. The wheel was shaped like a gear, and it was the opening mechanism of the black door. Emo did not hesitate to turn the gear mechanism, and the thick and heavy black stone door opened with a creaking sound. Swish! Emo did not dare to waste time, and rushed out of the black door as fast as the wind. The next moment, he rushed into a spacious circular hall, and quickly stopped. He saw that the hall had a radius of 50 meters, and it was surrounded by bluestone walls. On the surrounding walls there were a total of 10 black stone doors. In addition to him, there were 3 other black stone doors that had been opened. There were 3 disciples standing in front of each stone door, and just like him, they were looking around in confusion. Emo recognized the 3 disciples, and his face suddenly changed. The confidence and complacency in his heart disappeared instantly. Shi Jingqing? Niehao? Wei Jinhong? You 3 have also broken through the passage and passed the first test? He thought that he was the first one to break through the passage, but he did not expect that the 3 disciples were faster than him. Shi Jingqing, Niehao, and the other 2 also saw Emo, and immediately showed a playful smile. Haha, Emo, you are too slow and can only be ranked 4th. The first test is so easy, as long as you memorize the 7 mysterious formulas you can pass. What's so surprising about that? Look, another one has passed the first test. Sure enough, a black stone door not far away opened, and a young disciple walked out. In the next 100 breaths, more and more black stone doors were opened, and one disciple after another came into the hall. Not long after, there were 8 disciples in the hall. Only 2 stone doors were not opened, and Ji Tianxing and Lu Mingyang were still missing. Seeing this, several disciples showed a mocking or contemptuous sneer, and began to talk unscrupulously. Ha 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 ha, as I expected, Ji Tianxing is going to be last. Yes. He didn't even listen to a class for half a month, and I guess he doesn't even know what the 7 mysterious formulas are. Haha, last month he got the first place in the test, and he is so arrogant that he doesn't know who he is. He can't even pass the first test, and there will be a good show to watch later. Lu Mingyang didn't come out either. He swept the floor for half a month, and his brain became stupid, and he can't even pass the first test. Ha 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 ha, this is ridiculous. Ji Tianxing and Lu Mingyang, these two wastes, will be disgraced today. The 7th chapter has been delivered, and this chapter is a separate chapter for the reader, Tong. I would like to thank you for your 10,000 book coins reward, and become the first leader of this book. The new book rules are the same as the old book Blade Breaks the Firmament. Every 10,000 book coins reward 1 chapter. Thank you for your support. Chapter 171. The disciples discussed for a while, and then looked at the center of the hall. There was a white light shield with a radius of 10 meters, shining with a dazzling white light and emitting a majestic aura of origin energy. This was obviously another large array, and it was an array within an array. The name of the mother and child Xian array came from this. The large array that everyone was in was the mother array, and the array in the center of the hall was the child array. Han Qiusheng placed everyone's identity tokens in the child array. Everyone had only passed the first test. Next, they still needed to enter the child array and find their own identity tokens. Half an hour had passed, and a quarter of the 2-hour deadline that Han Qiusheng gave them had passed. The disciples all felt that time was of the essence and hurriedly walked towards the child array. Time is tight, let's hurry to the child array to find the tokens. Ji Tianxing and Lu Mingyang haven't come out yet. It seems that there is no hope. They will definitely fail the test. Why do we still care about those two trash? Let's hurry and take a look at the child array. This child array is strange. We can't enter directly. We still need to crack it. It seems that the second test is different. Let's study it quickly and think of a way to crack it. It won't work. I tried several methods that Deacon Han taught us, but they all didn't work. The disciples discussed for a while and realized that the difficulty of the second test had increased greatly. Their faces became dignified. They finally understood that although the mother and child Xian array that Han Qiusheng set up was only a black-level low-grade array, there was a hidden mystery. It was not so easy to enter the child array and get the identity token. Swoosh! A white light flashed, and Lu Mingyang appeared in a dark passage out of thin air. Behind him and on both sides were blue stone walls. Only the passage in front of him extended into the distance, and there was light at the end. Lu Mingyang looked around and saw that there was no one in the dark passage. He immediately revealed a smug sneer. Hee hee, those idiots must have thought that I didn't pass the first test, right? With their pig brains, how could they think that I passed the first test and directly entered the child array? It seems that the first place of this test is mine. Ha ha! Thinking of this, Lu Mingyang couldn't help but laugh out loud. But at this moment, a white light flashed beside him with a swish sound. Then, a young man in a green robe appeared out of thin air. Lu Mingyang's face suddenly changed. He looked over and recognized that this person was Ji Tianxing. He was immediately stunned and stared at Ji Tianxing in disbelief. Ji Tianxing, you? Why are you here? This is impossible. Absolutely impossible. Lu Mingyang was proficient in array formations before entering the sky-bearing sect, so he was very confident in this assessment and disdained the other disciples. But he never would have thought that Ji Tianxing would be the same as him, breaking through the first level and directly entering the child array. Moreover, Ji Tianxing was only one step behind him. Ji Tianxing also saw the surrounding scene clearly, and his eyes fell on Lu Mingyang. Seeing Lu Mingyang's expression as if he had seen a ghost, he immediately curled his lips in disdain and said, "What a fuss! It's just an array within an array. There are mysteries everywhere in the array, and they are connected to each other. As long as you crack the array, you can break the illusion on the surface. Speaking of this, Ji Tianxing stopped and waved his hand disdainfully. Forget it, I'm too lazy to explain too much to you. Anyway, you won't understand even if I tell you. What? Lu Mingyang's eyes immediately glared angrily. He was provoked by his contemptuous attitude and his face turned ashen. How dare you look down on me? I don't understand? Ha ha ha. Ji Tianxing, you are too arrogant. Lu Mingyang's face was ferocious as he glared at Ji Tianxing. He was so angry that he laughed. Ji Tianxing furrowed his brows in disgust when he saw the crazy look on his face. Lu Mingyang, are you crazy? Why are you acting crazy? Lu Mingyang became more and more furious. He gritted his teeth and scolded, You! Good for you, Ji Tianxing. Just you wait. I will definitely take the first place and trample you under my feet. I will let you see who is the array genius. Ji Tianxing showed an expression as if he was looking at an idiot and said disdainfully, Do you still need to ask? It's definitely me. After saying that, he curled his lips in disdain and walked into the depths of the passage. Lu Mingyang looked at his back and suddenly gritted his teeth in anger. His fists were clenched so tightly that creaking sounds could be heard. Damn it! He wants to provoke me, make me lose my mind and waste my time. I almost fell into his trap. After a long time, he reacted and hurriedly chased after him. When Lu Mingyang reached the end of the passage, he saw two light doors in front of him. The light door on the left was red, and the edge of the door frame was surrounded by rising flames. The light door on the right was ice blue, and the door frame was covered with thick ice and many icicles were hanging on it. Seeing these two light doors, Lu Mingyang immediately understood. Looks like there is another world in this child array, and I can enter through two paths. The left represents fire, and the right represents ice. Just now Ji Tianxing entered the ice door on the right. Since that's the case, I will enter from the flame door on the left. After making up his mind, Lu Mingyang did not hesitate to step into the flame door. Swoosh! With a flash of fire, Lu Mingyang entered the child array's small world and appeared in a mountain range that was as red as fire. The entire mountain range was bare, and the surface was covered with dark brown rocks that constantly emitted spirals of black smoke. The temperature of the ground was extremely high, and many places were roasted dark red by the flames. There were also some potholes that were filled with red magma. There were also a few red streams on the hillside, and red magma flowed down from the peak of the mountain. The air was extremely hot, and there were even light red flames that could be seen with the naked eye. Lu Mingyang only stood on the flame mountain range for a while, and he felt that his body was boiling hot, and his skin was dry, as if it was about to smoke. Isn't Deacon Han's work too big? He actually created a flame mountain in the array? There is no way around. It looks like I have to climb over the flame mountain to get the identity token. Although I know that this is an illusion created by the array, it's too realistic. It's like passing off the fake as the real thing. If I can't break the array, even if it's an illusion, it's enough to make me suffer. Lu Mingyang muttered in a low voice as he walked up the flame mountain, and his sharp eyes searched around. He avoided the places where the flames gathered, and the areas where the red magma flowed, and walked up to the peak of the mountain unhurriedly. Although the air and the ground were extremely hot, and the scene of magma flowing on the hillside made him tremble in fear, he still persisted. He gritted his teeth and persevered, and kept reminding himself that all of this was an illusion created by the array. As long as he could find a way to break the array, everything would be solved. Chapter 172. 15 minutes later, Lu Mingyang arrived at the mountainside of the blazing mountain. After 15 minutes of observation and searching, he finally found the key to cracking the array. It was a pit covered in lava, and it was one of the 4 array bases that supported the blazing mountain's array. If it was an ordinary disciple, even if they knew that the array base was under the lava pit, they would not dare to crack it. Lu Mingyang hesitated for a moment before using his true essence to send out palm shadows to clean up the dark red lava in the lava pit. He then used his palm techniques to blast away the hard rocks at the bottom of the lava pit and finally found the array base. It was a black disk the size of a wash basin, and it was one of the 4 array bases of the Blazing Mountains array. The array base was engraved with crisscrossing array patterns, and there were a dozen dark red gems in the patterns. If this array base was a chessboard, then the dozen dark red gems were the chess pieces, and they were the key to cracking and controlling the array. Haha, I was right. No matter how mysterious the array is, it can't escape my eyes. I am a true array genius. Lu Mingyang smiled proudly and quickly looked down to observe the array base. In a short time, he found the way to crack the array. He confidently stretched out his finger and moved the few dark red gems on the array base. The array base's layout was changed, and the Blazing Mountain also changed. From Lu Mingyang's feet to the peak of the Blazing Mountain, there was a small path paved with dark brown rock. There were no flames, no black smoke, and no crimson-red lava on the small path. Lu Mingyang's lips curled into a proud smile. He stepped onto the rocky path and quickly rushed to the peak. Soon, he arrived at the peak of the Blazing Mountain. At this time, he saw that there was a completely blue ice mountain about 10 miles away on the opposite side of the Blazing Mountain. He immediately understood that if Ji Tianxing wanted to enter the ice gate, he would have to climb over that ice mountain. Haha, Ji Tianxing can't be faster than me. First place is mine. Lu Mingyang sneered and looked down at the foot of the Blazing Mountain. Between the Blazing Mountain and the Ice Mountain was a flat area with a radius of 10 miles. This area had green grasslands, a golden desert, and a clear lake. In the middle of the plain, a high platform made of marble could be vaguely seen. Lu Mingyang stared at the high platform for a moment, then revealed an expectant smile. It seems that everyone's identity medallions are placed on that platform. I have to hurry. I can't let Ji Tianxing get ahead of me. He hurriedly lowered his head and looked around, searching for the formation base at the peak of the flaming mountain. With his previous experience, Lu Mingyang quickly found an array base in the nearby magma pool. He tried his best to clear the magma and found an array disk at the bottom of the magma pool. This array disk was the same as the previous one. It was also covered with array patterns, and there were more than a dozen dark red gems on its surface. After Lu Mingyang forcefully moved a few dark red gems, the formation of the flaming mountain changed. The flames on the ground beneath his feet went out, and a rocky path leading to the foot of the mountain appeared. Lu Mingyang hurriedly rushed down the flaming mountain and entered the grassland full of fragrant grass. The grassland seemed to have a pleasant scenery, but in fact, it was also arranged by an array and was full of difficulties and obstacles. But this was not a problem for Lu Mingyang. He cracked several array bases along the way and finally succeeded in climbing the high platform after a quarter of an hour. The high platform made of marble was like a 10-meter-high altar, surrounded by steps. At the top of the high platform was a stone table with 10 black diamond-shaped medallions on it. Lu Mingyang looked around and saw that he was the only one around the high platform. He immediately revealed a proud smile. Haha, I'm the first to arrive. I'm first. While roaring excitedly, Lu Mingyang ran over the steps and climbed up the high platform. He rushed to the stone table and found his identity medallion among the 10 medallions. However, after he put away his identity medallion, he did not turn around and leave. His gaze fell on Ji Tianxing's identity medallion and frowned for a moment. He suddenly thought of an idea and his eyes flashed with a sinister sneer. Then, Lu Mingyang took Ji Tianxing's identity medallion, turned around and walked down the high platform towards the Golden Desert not far away. The Golden Desert is filled with violent and fierce sword qi. There is also a powerful sword array that constantly bursts out sword rays. Ji Tianxing, O Ji Tianxing. Not only will I take first place, I will also make you fail the exam and become the laughingstock of the Tempest Academy." He walked into the Golden Desert with a sneer and threw Ji Tianxing's identity medallion into the desert. Unfortunately, although there is a sword array in the Golden Desert, it cannot be easily triggered. No, I have to activate the sword array and double its power. Only then will I be able to trap Ji Tianxing. Lu Mingyang still felt uneasy and found the array base of the Golden Desert. He also found a cyan array plate underground. This was a square array plate. Its surface was engraved with array patterns and symbols. There were also a dozen or so little golden people acting as chess pieces to control the array. Lu Mingyang pondered for a moment and used his strength to move a few of the little golden people, changing the array pattern. Suddenly, the entire Golden Desert lit up with a dazzling golden light, forming a translucent golden light shield. There was an endless amount of gung metal sword chi in the light shield, constantly condensing into one sharp and fierce golden sword ray after another. Hundreds of violent golden sword rays constantly danced and shuttled back and forth in the light shield, making swish, swish, swish sounds. The power was terrifying. Lu Mingyang was very clear that even if he was thrown into the light shield, he would not be able to withstand the numerous sword rays. He would certainly be strangled black and blue all over. He was very satisfied with this result and revealed a triumphant sneer. Ji Tianxing cut through the thorns and broke through several arrays before finally rushing to the center of the plain and under the high platform. He looked at the stone table at the top of the platform and saw the black identity medallions on the table. He finally let out a sigh of relief. "Phew! I finally found the identity medallion." He whispered in a low voice and turned his head to look around. He found that he was the only one under the high platform. Strange, where is Lu Mingyang? Is he not here yet? Ji Tianxing furrowed his brows in confusion, then hurriedly stepped onto the stage. When he arrived at the stone table, he glanced at the identity medallions on the table and his eyelids suddenly twitched. Why are there only 8 medallions? He vaguely had a bad premonition and quickly searched for his own medallion among the 8 medallions. In the end, there was no medallion for him among the 8 medallions. The 2 medallions that disappeared were his and Lu Mingyang's. Lu Mingyang, this despicable person, actually took away my identity medallion? Ji Tianxing's face suddenly became gloomy and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 173. The results of the mid-month quiz were determined based on the identity token. Ji Tianxing had broken through a few arrays and reached the platform where the identity token was. If he did not retrieve the token that belonged to him, he would be judged as having failed the quiz. He stood on the platform and looked around, searching for Lu Mingyang's figure. As expected, when he looked at the Golden Desert to the east of the platform, he immediately saw Lu Mingyang's figure. He frowned and immediately rushed down the platform towards the Golden Desert. Swoosh! In just a few seconds, Ji Tianxing rushed to the vicinity of the Golden Desert and rushed in front of Lu Mingyang. Lu Mingyang was standing at the edge of the Golden Desert, looking at him with a smile. He looked calm and unruffled, as if he was waiting to watch a good show. "Lu Mingyang, you despicable person, hand over my token." Ji Tianxing stood 10 steps away from him and shouted coldly. Lu Mingyang's smile became even brighter, and he said in a mocking tone, "Haha, you're quite capable, you're only 1 step behind me. Unfortunately, I'm more skilled than you, I found the identity token before you." As he said that, he pointed at the golden light shield behind him and sneered, "You want to take back the token? It's in that sword array, go ahead and take it if you can." Ji Tianxing looked carefully. There was indeed a black token lying in the desert inside the golden light shield. He frowned, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Lu Mingyang, you're courting death." As he said that, his figure flashed and rushed towards Lu Mingyang, raising his fists and smashing them down. His fists were shining with a golden light, and he actually used his true origin to condense a golden fist shadow. Seeing this, Lu Mingyang immediately sneered disdainfully and shouted contemptuously, "Ji Tianxing, are you confused? You dare to fight me with your true origin realm strength." As he said that, he raised his fists and smashed them towards Ji Tianxing. He wanted to use his mystic comprehending realm strength to defeat Ji Tianxing head-on. However, his words stopped abruptly halfway through, and the second half of his sentence turned into a scream. Bang! With a muffled sound, Lu Mingyang was blown away and smashed into the desert 5 meters away, splashing a large amount of golden sand. He lay on the ground in a sorry state, his body covered in sand. He struggled to get up, only to find that both his wrists were broken and he couldn't exert any strength. He simply could not accept this result. He could not believe that he was defeated by Ji Tianxing in one move. Not only was he sent flying, but his wrist was also broken. Impossible! How is this possible? Ji Tianxing, you are only at the true energy realm, while I have already reached the Tongxian realm. How can you possibly defeat me? Lu Mingyang's face was filled with anger. He raised his head to look at Ji Tianxing and roared unwillingly. Ji Tianxing strode towards him, the corners of his mouth hooked up in a contemptuous sneer. Lu Mingyang, you think too highly of yourself. Not to mention that you are only at level 1 of the Tongxian realm. Even if you were at level 4 of the Tongxian realm, you would still be no match for me. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already walked to Lu Mingyang's side. When Lu Mingyang saw his cold expression, he was so scared that he immediately retreated. Ji Tianxing, what are you trying to do? This is the mother-child profound formation. Don't act recklessly, or else Deacon Han will definitely not forgive you. Lu Mingyang was trying to intimidate Ji Tianxing, but he was actually feeling extremely nervous. Hee, look at you, wagging your tail and begging for mercy. What a joke! Ji Tianxing sneered contemptuously. He suddenly lifted his right leg and kicked him hard in the chest. Bang! Lu Mingyang was kicked so hard that he spat out blood and sank deep into the sand. His entire body was buried by the golden sand. He struggled with all his might, but his chest was pressed down by Ji Tianxing's right leg, making him unable to move at all. Blood overflowed from his mouth as he roared hysterically, "Ah! Ji Tianxing! You bastard! How dare you humiliate me like this? If you have the guts, then kill me!" Ji Tianxing frowned and said with a smile, "You don't have to provoke me. I definitely won't kill you today. Even if I want to kill you, I won't do it in the sect. Didn't you think you were smart and threw my token into the sword formation? Since that's the case, I'll let you know what it means to be too smart for your own good. I'll make you lose all face and have no face to stay in the Fengyan courtyard." After saying this, Ji Tianxing grabbed Lu Mingyang's collar and snatched his token. Then, he dragged Lu Mingyang like a dead dog and turned around to walk into the golden light barrier. Lu Mingyang was extremely angry and humiliated as he struggled with all his might. However, he was seriously injured and couldn't escape from Ji Tianxing's grasp. Ji Tianxing dragged him into the golden light barrier and was immediately attacked by dozens of golden sword lights. Swish, swish, swish. A total of more than 40 powerful sword lights came from all directions and enveloped the two figures. Ji Tianxing, on the other hand, activated 8 half-meter-long sword chis and formed a sword light net around him. Swish, swish, swish. The sword light net was like a golden light ball with a radius of 3 meters, blocking all the sword lights that came from all directions. Even though this sword formation had been tampered with by Lu Mingyang and its power doubled, it still couldn't hurt Ji Tianxing in the slightest. Ji Tianxing walked to the center of the sword formation and picked up the token from the sand. He threw the seriously injured Lu Mingyang into the sword formation and swaggered out of the sword formation. Lu Mingyang was dumbfounded on the spot. His face was filled with despair as he sat down on the sand. Looking at the swords that were coming at him from all directions, his eyes were filled with terror. "Ah! Ji Tianxing! You despicable and vicious bastard! You will die a horrible death. Lu Mingyang roared furiously and desperately waved his palm to block the sword lights that came from all directions. However, the sword formation was too powerful, and there were too many sword lights. He couldn't block all of them. Bang bang bang! After just a dozen breaths, Lu Mingyang was hit by 3 sword lights, and there were 3 more bloody holes in his body. Ji Tianxing stood at the edge of the golden desert and sneered as he watched Lu Mingyang miserably evade the sword light. Lu Mingyang, it was you who was despicable and vicious. You wanted to use the sword formation to harm me. Now that you have such an ending, you reap what you sow. You deserve it. Lu Mingyang suddenly went berserk. He was so angry that he almost lost his mind. He cursed crazily as he ran desperately in the sword formation. He wanted to escape the sword formation and get rid of the sword lights. However, another 20 breaths passed. He was hit by 4 sword lights again, and there were 4 more bloody holes in his body that were so deep that his bones could be seen. After being hit repeatedly, Lu Mingyang was so angry that he finally vomited blood and fainted. He fell into the desert with a bang. Dozens of sword lights slashed and were about to cut Lu Mingyang into pieces. At the critical moment, the entire sword formation suddenly stopped operating as if it was shut down by someone. In the blink of an eye, the golden light shield and the sword lights disappeared. The golden desert returned to calm. Only Lu Mingyang, who was covered in blood, was still lying unconscious on the sand. Seeing that the sword formation was shut down, Ji Tianxing frowned. He immediately guessed that Han Qiaoxing must have found that the situation was not good and forcibly shut down the sword formation. You are lucky today. I just taught you a lesson. If you dare to offend me again in the future, I will definitely take your dog life. Ji Tianxing looked at the unconscious Lu Mingyang and snorted coldly. Then, he turned and left. He returned to the high platform and activated the formation on the stone table. A white light door immediately appeared. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing stepped through the white light door and left the mother-child profound formation. He returned to the backyard of the storm courtyard. Chapter 174. In the backyard of the Tempest courtyard, Han Qiaoxing and Du Wu were discussing something in low voices. Suddenly, the mother and child profound formation flashed with a white light. Swish! A youth in a green robe walked out of the formation and arrived in front of the two. There's still half an hour before the time is up. Finally, a disciple passed. Han Qiaoxing and Du Wu immediately stopped their discussion and turned to look at the green-robed youth. When they saw the green-robed youth's appearance, they were startled. Their eyes flashed with astonishment and surprise. Ji Tianxing? Why is it him? He's the first to come out? How is this possible? Han Qiaoxing and Du Wu had the same thought in their minds. It was quite unbelievable. At this time, Ji Tianxing walked in front of them. He cupped his hands and bowed before handing over his identity token. Deacons, this is disciples' identity token. Han Qiaoxing and Du Wu looked at each other. They suppressed the surprise in their hearts and reached out to take Ji Tianxing's identity token. Han Qiaoxing's expression was somewhat complicated. He nodded with a gratified expression and said, Ji Tianxing, you're very good. But you must guard against arrogance and rashness. Continue to cultivate diligently and diligently. Only then can you win glory for our Tempest courtyard. Ji Tianxing smiled and cupped his hands. Thank you for your advice, Deacon Han. Han Qiaoxing also smiled and nodded. He let him stand to the side and wait. After about a quarter of an hour, the second disciple finally walked out of the formation and returned to the backyard. This person was actually Nie Hao, which surprised Han Qiaoxing and Du Wu. Nie Hao handed over his identity token to Han Qiaoxing and walked to Ji Tianxing's side. He smiled and greeted him. Brother Ji, I really didn't expect you to be the first to walk out of the formation. You're first in the alchemy test and first in the array test. Brother Ji, you're so abnormal. How can the others live? Nie Hao smiled and joked. His tone was full of envy. However, Ji Tianxing could feel that Nie Hao was sincerely admiring and happy for him. There was no jealousy. In the last 15 minutes, the other 7 disciples walked out of the mother-child profound formation and returned to the backyard. When everyone found out that the first person to walk out of the array was actually Ji Tianxing, they were stunned on the spot and felt that it was inconceivable. With Han Qiusheng and Du Wu present, the disciples suppressed the shock in their hearts, quietly looking at Ji Tianxing with strange eyes. If that wasn't the case, they would have already started discussing it. Especially Emo and Shi Jingqing, when they heard that Ji Tianxing won the first place, they were stunned. Previously, they had thought that Ji Tianxing would definitely fail the test and would not be able to walk out of the mother-child profound formation. However, in the end, Ji Tianxing won first place and was the first to walk out of the array. This was a miracle that they could never have imagined and could not believe. Their feelings became extremely complicated. Their gazes towards Ji Tianxing were somewhat evasive, not daring to look directly at Ji Tianxing. Very soon, the 2-hour time limit was up. Other than Han Qiusheng and Du Wu, there were only 9 disciples in the courtyard. Only Lu Mingyang did not appear. This result made Du Wu frown, and he could not help but ask, "What's going on? Isn't Lu Mingyang proficient in array Dao? Why hasn't he come out yet?" The other disciples also found that Lu Mingyang had not yet appeared, and they immediately revealed a playful smile. A disciple quickly said, "Deacon Du, just now I was in the array and saw with my own eyes that Lu Mingyang was trapped in the desert." The other 2 disciples also quickly echoed, "Yes, I saw it too." Lu Mingyang also seems to have suffered a serious injury. Han Qiusheng frowned, seemingly inadvertently glancing at Ji Tianxing. Obviously, he was very clear about what was going on. However, Ji Tianxing pretended not to see Han Qiusheng's gaze. His face was still calm, and he stood calmly in the crowd. Han Qiusheng waved his hands, striking out rays of true essence, and began to control the mother-child profound formation. After a moment, the mother-child profound formation was closed. The 10-meter-wide white light barrier disappeared, revealing the silver and black stone floor. Swoosh! Lu Mingyang, who was covered in blood and seriously injured and unconscious, appeared in front of everyone, lying on the stone floor. Seeing his miserable appearance, several disciples couldn't help but snicker, showing expressions of schadenfreude. If it were not for the presence of the 2 deacons, they would definitely have laughed and started discussing again. "Deacon Du, take him down to treat his injuries," Han Qiusheng ordered expressionlessly. Du Wu nodded and quickly took the seriously injured and unconscious Lu Mingyang away. Then, Han Qiusheng announced the results of the assessment. In this array Dao assessment, Lu Mingyang failed. 9 disciples have successfully passed the assessment, and Ji Tianxing is the first. Those who failed the assessment will be punished and continue to clean the storm courtyard for 2 months. The first place, Ji Tianxing, will receive 5 Aquarius spirit fruits as a reward. Hearing this result, the disciples all had complicated expressions on their faces. Some were gloating over Lu Mingyang's punishment, secretly laughing. But even more people looked at Ji Tianxing with eyes full of envy. Han Qiusheng continued with a solemn expression, "Before everyone entered the mother-child profound formation, I have already reminded everyone. The mother-child profound formation has a hidden mystery, and there is an array within an array. Not only must everyone use the array Dao that you have learned in the past half a month, but you must also think and research more to have a chance of winning first place. Although you have been very diligent in the past half a month and have indeed passed the assessment, you have not thought much. You have not been able to draw inferences and truly comprehend the essence of array Dao." Although the assessment was over, Han Qiusheng still admonished and guided everyone as usual. Otherwise, what was the point of this assessment? Han Qiusheng did this not to rank the disciples and prove who was better and who was worse. His original intention was to teach the disciples how to learn and improve through each assessment. Teach a man to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. This was Han Qiusheng's way of teaching the disciples. Not only did he teach the disciples alchemy and array Dao, but he also taught them how to learn and research array Dao and alchemy Dao. As long as these disciples were not idiots, they would definitely be able to comprehend by analogy and apply this learning method to martial arts in the future. Only then would they have great achievements in the future. Seeing that all the disciples were listening attentively and modestly, Han Qiusheng continued to speak. Why was Ji Tianxing able to win first place? Because he did not use the 7 profound formulas to pass the first level. He looked through the surface to see the essence, and he knew to observe and think more. He cracked the array of the first level, found the hidden secret passage, and directly entered the second level. That's why he found the identity token faster than you. Only mediocre people will break through the array step by step. Geniuses see the truth through the fog and take shortcuts to reach the end. I hope everyone will remember this point and apply it to martial arts in the future. Only in this way can you become a real expert. After listening to Han Qiusheng's words, all the disciples learned a lot and understood his good intentions. Emo and Shi Jingqing were ashamed. They were so ashamed that they could not show their faces. Previously, the two of them could not stand Ji Tianxing and were jealous of him. So they always targeted him and criticized him behind his back. But now, after 2 months of assessment, Ji Tianxing had won first place twice. The two of them were proficient in alchemy, but Ji Tianxing surpassed them with even more dazzling result. In this half a month, the two of them had focused on learning array Dao. Ji Tianxing did not even listen to an array Dao class for a day, but he won first place in the array Dao assessment and even received Han Qiusheng's praise. Ji Tianxing's talent was so outstanding. How could the two of them compare to him? The two of them recalled the words they used to ridicule Ji Tianxing. How could they not be ashamed? From this moment on, the two of them were completely convinced by Ji Tianxing. They no longer dared to provoke or ridicule him. Chapter 175. Everyone was like this. When Ji Tianxing's performance was more outstanding than Emo and Shi Jingqing's, the two of them would deny his excellence, be jealous of him, and even slander and talk about him behind his back. And when Ji Tianxing was more outstanding than them in all aspects, and even surpassed them in all aspects, they didn't even have the qualifications to be jealous of Ji Tianxing. They could only admire and look up to him. Of course, Emo and Shi Jingqing were top geniuses from various countries. Even if they were repeatedly defeated by Ji Tianxing and couldn't help but admire Ji Tianxing, they wouldn't be depressed and dispirited. Ji Tianxing's excellence would only arouse their fighting spirit and make them determined to cultivate even harder. At the same time, Han Qiusheng's speech ended and he announced another matter with a solemn expression. Everyone, the formation Dao study and examination will end here. In the next half-month, everyone will cultivate diligently and strive to increase their strength. Next month, there will be a competition between our sect and the Tianjian sect. It will be held at the peak of Dragon Mountain. The outcome of the Dragon Mountain tournament is related to the ownership of the Spirit Vein treasure land in Dragon Mountain. It is extremely important, because if you can win this tournament, all the resources in the Dragon Mountain will belong to our outer sect for the next 3 years. Hearing the words Dragon Mountain tournament, the expressions of the disciples changed and they began to whisper to each other. Everyone had been in the Sky-bearing sect for 1.5 months. Many of them understood the situation of the sect and had heard of the Dragon Mountain tournament. They knew that this tournament was very important. Han Qiusheng continued, "After half a month, I will choose the 5 most outstanding disciples based on your performance in the past 2 months. At that time, the 5 disciples will compete and the 3 most outstanding people will represent our sect in the Dragon Mountain tournament. If anyone can win honor for our sect will reward them heavily." The disciples were all infected by his words. Their blood surged and their eyes were filled with anticipation. The wind-cloud courtyard had 10 disciples, and only 3 were allowed to participate in the Dragon Mountain tournament. Everyone felt that their chances were very high. As long as they worked hard, they would be able to win the qualification to participate in the competition. Although Ji Tianxing had taken the first place in both the alchemy assessment and the array formation assessment, he was still able to take the first place. However, in this Dragon Mountain Grand Competition, they had to rely on their true strength to win the right to participate. None of them believed that they were inferior to others. They were confident that they could represent the Tempest Academy and the Sky Pillar sect. After the announcement, Han Xiaosheng took out 5 Aquarius spirit fruits and gave them to Ji Tianxing as a reward before leaving. The disciples discussed in 2s and 3s for a while before dispersing. Everyone was aware of the importance of the Dragon Mountain tournament. They knew that this was a good opportunity to represent their sect and make a name for themselves. Therefore, no one dared to waste any time. After returning to their residences, they began to cultivate intensively, trying their best to increase their strength. Ji Tianxing put away the 5 Aquarius spirit fruits and returned to his room. He also planned to cultivate in seclusion for half a month to refine the last sword vein and try his best to break through to the mystic comprehending realm. However, before cultivating in seclusion, he had to visit 2 people, Ji Ku and Yun Yao. Ji Tianxing left the wind-cloud courtyard and entered the spirit medicine hall half an hour later. When he entered Ji Ku's room, he saw Ji Ku standing by the window, staring at the towering tree outside in a daze. "Ku." Ji Tianxing greeted her with a smile and walked towards Ji Ku. Ji Ku came back to her senses and turned her head to look at him. Her charming face immediately revealed a joyful smile. "Big brother Tianxing, why are you here?" Ji Tianxing saw that she was still unable to move, so he helped her back to the bedside and sat down. "Previously, I was busy cultivating in seclusion and didn't have time to visit you. Now that I'm free, I came to see you." "Cuckoo, you're finally able to get off the bed and walk around. How are your injuries?" Ji Ku nodded and smiled. "Big brother Tianxing, don't worry. The spirit medicine elder's medical skills are exquisite. He also gave me many spirit pills and miraculous medicines. My injuries have mostly recovered." "That's good." Ji Tianxing was relieved. He said in a gentle tone, "Cuckoo, you can rest here and heal your injuries. It won't take long for your injuries to fully recover." Ji Ku nodded obediently. After hesitating for a moment, she asked in a soft voice, "Big brother Tianxing, my imperial uncle, how is Ji Ling? I heard that he was kicked out of the sect." Ji Tianxing didn't hide it from her and said truthfully, "Ji Ling is already dead." Ji Ku was stunned for a moment. Her expression was a little complicated and emotional. "Dead? That's good too. He would do anything to achieve his goals and became inhumane. He deserved to die." Ji Tianxing nodded and said, "That's right. Ji Ling's heart is vicious and ruthless. He will only harm others if he lives. Death is his final destination." He saw that Ji Ku's mood was a little low, so he chatted with Ji Ku for a while more. An hour later, he waved goodbye to Ji Ku and went up to the 2nd floor of the palace. This palace was for the injured in the sect to recuperate. The ordinary disciples of the inner and outer sect lived on the 1st floor. The rooms on the 2nd floor of the palace were even more spacious, exquisite, and elegant. Only the elite geniuses, deacons, and elders could live in them. At the same time, there were 2 guards guarding the entrance to the 2nd floor. Ordinary people couldn't get close. Ji Tianxing was stopped by the 2 guards. He showed the atlas token to the 2 guards and was allowed to enter. He found Yun Yao's room. When he walked to the door, he saw 2 people in the room. Yun Yao, who was wearing a plain white dress, was leaning against the headboard quietly. Her beautiful face was a little sickly pale. The other person in the room was Bai Wuchen. Bai Wuchen stood by the bed, holding 2 spirit fruits that were full of spirit energy and flashing with the brilliance of true essence. He was persuading Yun Yao, eldest senior sister. These 2 origin-returning spirit fruits were given to me by the sect master when I made a contribution in the past. I couldn't bear to use them. The effects of the origin-returning spirit fruits are excellent. They can help you heal your injuries and restore your true essence as soon as possible. Eldest senior sister, this is a token of my appreciation. Don't reject it. Quickly accept it. However, Yun Yao's expression was calm, and no one could see any change in her emotions. She had not recovered from her injuries, and was not interested in Bai Wuchen's origin-returning spirit fruit. She shook her head gently and said in a weak voice, "Junior brother Bai, keep it. I've already taken many spirit pills and elixirs. I just need to rest quietly. I don't need any spirit fruits." Bai Wuchen was obviously unwilling. He frowned and wanted to persuade her again. At this moment, Ji Tianxing walked into the room and greeted her with a smile. "Eldest senior sister, I'm here to visit you." Bai Wuchen's body stiffened when he heard his voice. He immediately turned his head to look at him. "Ji Tianxing? Why are you here?" Bai Wuchen frowned, and there was confusion in his eyes. Ji Tianxing smiled and said calmly, "Even senior brother Bai knows to visit eldest senior sister. Of course, I have to show some concern for eldest senior sister." As he spoke, he walked to Yun Yao's bedside and asked about her injuries with concern. Yun Yao's expression eased a lot. She said a few words to him in a weak voice, indicating that she was fine. Bai Wuchen frowned and stared at Ji Tianxing. He asked again, "Ji Tianxing, this is a forbidden area. You can only enter with the permission of the sect leader or the elders. How did you sneak in?" Ji Tianxing glanced at him and smiled playfully. He took out the Atlas token. "I have the token. Why can't I come in?" "Atlas token?" Bai Wuchen recognized the token. His eyes narrowed and his face was filled with disbelief. "In our sect, only eldest senior sister and a few of us elite disciples have the Atlas token. How did you get one?"